It's a second term in office.
As Americans, we are bound together by a single fate and a shared destiny.
For months and in the final days leading up to November 5th, both campaigns have crisscrossed the country and made multiple stops in the Grand Canyon state to rally support. Tonight, we have election coverage like you have never seen before. Unscripted, commercial-free. Yes, we are covering the race for the White House and the balance of power on Capitol Hill, but we're diving deep into Arizona politics. They say all politics is local, and the lengthy ballot means that there are important propositions. The race for the county sheriff, attorney, and recorder. And we will get to all of it tonight. Live analysis from local political experts in real time as all of those results come in. Good evening, everyone. I'm Ellen McNamara, and tonight is election night across America. It is around 8 o'clock Arizona time, and from right about now until about 11 o'clock our time, we will be commercial free. We are bringing you coverage from the Fox 10 Phoenix YouTube link. We are streaming here, but we're also on 45 or cable channel 9. And you need to get comfortable because, frankly, it is election night. This is going to be a long night, and it could be a long couple of days, frankly, especially in Arizona. Maricopa County, as you know, it came down to pretty much Maricopa County in 2020. It certainly could come down to Maricopa County in 2024 as well. Now, I'm going to be your guide throughout the evening. This is going to be a very long night, but I also have help as well because I need help, right? From some of the best political minds across the valley. I'm joined now by Stan Barnes from Copper State Consulting Group. Stan, thanks so much for coming in.
It's so good to be here.
And Doug Cole, and you're with High Ground Inc. Thanks so much for coming as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is going to be a long night. And as far as just the results, I just want to explain that we are going to have a data drop from Maricopa County. We are expecting that in the next couple of minutes or so. When that does happen, we will bring that to you live. And I'm going to have a producer kind of wave at me off camera, say, hey, let's go to those results. Once that happens, we will bring those results to you right away. We are expecting, of course, the first data drop, the presidential race, the U.S. Senate race involving Ruben Gallego and Carrie Lake, and then, of course, some of the congressional races 1 through 9. And then we're looking at the Maricopa County recorder, the sheriff, the county attorney. There's a lot of propositions too. It was a long ballot. And that's also why it's going to take some time to tabulate everything. Guys, I mean, I know you've been on the other side of campaigns, and it's what you do. What's going on right now behind closed doors? I guess presidential or just as a candidate in general, what are you doing right now?
Well, it's a nervous time for a lot of people because a lot's resting on what's going to drop, as probably is dropping as we speak right now. Mm-hmm. And a lot of work over the years has led up to this moment. Yeah. And so a lot of people are on pins and needles, and they're going to look at this first drop, and they're going to be either very happy or very sad, or maybe I have a chance.
Right. And a lot of money too. So much money. So much money.
Yeah.
The culmination of millions of dollars, and the beauty and the pain of election night is it's binary.
Yeah.
You are a winner or you are a loser.
Yeah.
And you have spent a year and a half, 2 years seeking that office, kissing babies, being in every part of Arizona, raising money, spending money, and only to have it all culminate in one night. There's almost nothing like it in normal business, really. Yeah. So it's a very interesting day.
And it looks like from the first results, if I may, it looks like they're within a couple, not even 100 votes of each other right now.
I believe we do have some of those results. The first data has come in. Let's go to that right now if we can. So yeah, this is the first data drop. So
40 votes.
This is going to be extremely close. And right now, Donald Trump 49.6% to Kamala Harris is 49.6%. But yeah, 621,000 votes with basically 621,000 votes. This is so close. And right now, so as far as Maricopa County goes, we have about 1.2 million votes that were released with this first data batch.
Correct.
And you were even saying, Doug, that there are going to be some problems because we need a lot more to make any kind of call, not only with this race, but with so many of the other ones that we're going to be covering throughout the night.
Great. Well, let me just roll out a few numbers, if I may, not because it's going to set up the whole evening. There are 2.58 million registered voters in Maricopa County.
Yep.
They are 1.58 have received early voting as of yesterday. 1.5 million signatures were verified, and a total of 1.2 million have been tabulated. So that's what we're seeing here right now, approximately 1.2 million ballots that have been tabulated. But here's the difference from years past. Normally in Maricopa County, the first drop represents ballots that came in early, usually to last Friday night or Saturday at noon.
Right.
This is a bit different, and we can go into the reasons later. This is only ballots through last Tuesday night,
Right.
so October 29th, which we can discuss what the ballot turnout looked like at that period, because there were various voting segments that were underperforming and overperforming last Tuesday.
So people who have physically taken in their mail-in ballot and they dropped it off by last Tuesday,
Yes.
this is that first drop.
Nobody after that.
Right.
Nobody after that, and that's kind of an
Which is a
anomaly.
lot of people.
I know, there's
And
a-
there were like 400,000, 500,000 that dropped
Correct.
off today.
Yes,
Correct.
which is why we take longer to count,
Yeah.
because of that 400,000 to 500,000 that bring their ballots in. But isn't it true? We just saw the numbers that had the two candidates for president tied. Isn't it true that Kamala Harris must win Maricopa County?
Yes.
Because she's going to lose rural Arizona.
Yeah.
Big. And she's
Big.
a real big.
Yeah.
So she's got to do well in Maricopa County. The fact that they're tied with 34% of the vote in is, I think, a net negative thing for Kamala Harris.
Okay. And Pima County, I mean,
Pima County
that's going to go left.
It's going to go heavy for Kamala Harris.
Okay.
And Coconino County.
Carrie Lake, real quick, and Ruben Gallego, do we have that first batch of numbers as well? I think we do, the U.S. Senate race.
Oh,
there we
boy.
go.
Okay,
Yeah, we are.
so Ruben Gallego, 53% to Carrie Lake's 45%. This is kind of to be expected right now. This is kind of where we thought we might be.
Yeah, who's Eduardo? That's what I want to know. How did he get in there?
Look at the photo, Eduardo.
But you got to remember
He
again.
still got 20,000
He
in the first
did.
batch.
He did. I like the hat.
Yeah.
But it's not as good as your hat, Stan.
Thank you.
But anyway, but what's important about these are ballots up to last Tuesday. Last Tuesday, independents were underperforming their ballot requests by 7 points. Okay.
What does that mean?
So that means that of all the ballot requests for the independents, they should be tracking that amount. So that's 31% of the total. Okay.
But they're 7% under?
Yeah. So
that means they're not voting?
yeah, that's right. So of the total universe of early ballots,
Yeah.
independents make up 31% of the total
Right.
universe, right?
Right.
As of last Tuesday, they had only 24% of the ballots returned
I see.
Okay.
were independent. So they were 7 points underperforming. And so they've been holding on to their ballots, but but there was a big ballot drop here. So that's what I mean. This is not representative of. This is representative of last Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
This sample size is not
Right.
telling
Correct.
us what we need to know.
It's not to know, but it is 1/3 of the electorate
Correct.
in Maricopa County.
Correct.
And that's a pretty big number. And
Yeah.
and things move in waves. And that 1/3, I'd rather be ahead than behind, right?
Yeah.
Because you just don't know what's in front of you.
Let's go through some of these other results real quickly since we do have this data drop. So U.S. House District 3, Yasamin Ansari, this is a heavy Democratic district. Ruben Gallego left this district to run for the U.S. Senate. So this is to be expected. In fact, she has that check mark. So Yasamin Ansari has already been declared the winner based on the pattern, the fact that the Democratic support is so heavy in this particular district. Let's move on and let's scroll through some of these as we move on. Okay, the U.S., this is going to be a tight one. Okay, so District 1, Dr. Amish Shah, former state lawmaker, taking on incumbent David Schweikert. And this is a district that Cook Political has called it a toss-up. And the district has changed a little bit more of North Phoenix involved now. And that, you guys would probably chime in on this, that could favor Amish Shah. Because when you're talking about Schweikert, his support is going to be more Scottsdale, more PV, more Fountain Hills. Would you agree with that?
That's correct. That district, after redistricting, got more competitive, and each election here in the last decade, we've seen Congressman Schweikert's margin of victory get smaller and smaller and smaller. But again, you know, it's going to be what's left out there for to be tabulated, because this could change. It could go either which way. But many people predicted that it was going to be such a tight race, and boy, we got one going here.
Yeah, he's 5,000 votes down and 63% counted. So is the voter that turns out and goes to the poll old school style? Is that a Shaw voter or a Schweiker voter? I think it's a Schweiker voter. And so, I mean, this is far from over. I'm sure David's not where he wants to be.
No.
But nonetheless, this race is playing out the way it has been predicted, a dead heat all the way through. Yeah.
And remember, we had the Republican Party here in Arizona, along with Donald Trump, telling Republicans this cycle to vote early. Whereas in 2020 and 2022, they were saying vote at the polls.
Right.
So, and that's why you saw in this batch that just dropped, Republicans were outperforming Democrats by 8 points as of last Tuesday.
And I mean, historically, mail-in ballots in early voting, it was a Republican thing.
Yeah, it
and
was
so
a Republican
it wasn't
thing.
until 2020 that Donald
That's right.
Trump said, no, show up on the actual election day. And
That's right.
frankly, if people had showed up on the day of the election with this lengthy ballot, we might have some longer lines, more problems, potentially. So it's good that people got through their mind that, you know, vote early, people, turn in your mail-in ballot. I mean,
Like it used to be.
seriously.
Are you lecturing your audience?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying, like, just turn it in. But we even had like an ad. Just, you know, the sooner you turn in your ballot, people, the sooner you get some results.
I know that's the answer to why does Maricopa County, the second largest voter district in all the United States, why does it take so long? Because 300,000 or 400,000 people are going to walk a hand ballot in, a mail ballot, and that has to be validated and then counted.
Right.
And that's a human experience, and it's going to take a few days to do that.
Yeah, and historically, Maricopa County has taken anywhere from 10 to 15 days for the last 3 decades. That's how long it's always taken. But what's different is we're now a swing state. Before, it didn't matter whether those ballots that were being counted on day 8 after the election were counted or not, because the race was so you know, the margin was so wide, it did not matter.
Well, it's like Florida back in the day.
Yes,
I mean, in
exactly.
Florida, you know, you had those margins, and it would take forever to count it and figure out. And same concept. It's just different swing states cause, you know, time, and everyone is counting, everyone's tabulating. It's just that you're looking at a pattern, and they're getting called. They just are. That's just the way it is. All right, let's go through some of the other congressional districts. So that will be definitely a race to watch. This is also one because Jonathan Nez, so he is the former leader of the Navajo Nation, and Eli Crane. This is a rural area. Eli Crane is going to have heavy support from Prescott, for example. But Jonathan was saying that he had strong support, of course, from the reservation. And a story that has come out of the reservation, the Navajo Nation in particular, is that they have extended the polling places to remain open until 9 o'clock Arizona time because they've had some issues there. We've also reported on bomb threats, frankly, throughout the country, many of them coming from Russia. And so some of these polling sites, particularly in states like Georgia, some in Pennsylvania, but also in Arizona and Navajo Nation, they have extended the polling sites to be open until 9 o'clock. So Cook Political, they haven't dubbed this as a toss-up. Jonathan, I know, was feeling a little bit more confident, but Eli, I mean, he's the incumbent. He has Trump support, former Navy SEAL. And so we do probably expect that Eli will come out on top, but this would be obviously a race to watch.
It would. It really shouldn't be close because it is a rural Yavapai County, Navajo, Apache County. That's a conservative area.
Yeah.
Gila County.
It also has a portion of Flagstaff.
Yeah.
Right.
And it does have the Navajo Reservation. But I mean, to the point you made, I mean, it's not often we extend our hours for voting, but there was a bomb threat that was so legitimate they decided to extend, which is very interesting.
Yeah, and they also had some printer problems up in Apache County. Now, you know, part of the Harris Walz strategy was to really run up the Native American vote here in Arizona, and that's why Governor Walz was in Flagstaff over the weekend. and that's why Vice President Harris spent so much time on the Gila River Indian Reservation and other places. So it'll be curious to see Coconino, be curious to see Navajo County, be curious to see Apache County, how those come in. Coconino County is a very blue county, very, very blue. So if they were able to drive up the numbers, that 10-point gap could narrow, but I don't see Congressman Crane losing that race. But it's going to be a lot closer than many people thought.
Exactly.
I don't know if we have District 6. That was another one that was kind of labeled a toss-up. Juan Siscomani and Kirsten
Yes,
Engel.
there it is.
Wow,
right
there
there.
it is. Yeah.
This is the first data drop here. So Kirsten Engel right now, 56% to Juan Siscomani's 42%. And Kirsten Engel is running again. So this is kind of a rematch. Well, it is a rematch, frankly, of 2022. Juan Siscomani, the Republican there, incumbent, but another race to watch. And the fact that this has been labeled a toss-up from Cook Political, just like District 1, that's Dr. Amy Shaw and David Schweikert. So what are you guys looking at, I mean, out of this race here?
There's a lot of confidence by Republicans that Siscomani is going to hold that seat.
Okay.
He's a dynamic individual, born in Mexico, a naturalized American citizen, a great person with a beautiful family, and an incumbent, and on the Appropriations Committee, which is a very big deal. I know it's anecdotal, but I know Democrats who have held fundraisers for Kirsten Engel, and after she left the room, they said, "Well, we're all voting for Siscomani, right?"
Oh.
Because if your guy is on the Appropriations Committee, that's a very big thing in the United States Congress. And Juan is a very likable person, but that district is perfectly balanced blue-red.
You're
It
right.
is.
And so that you get what you get, and in terms of the turnout in a presidential year generally benefits Democrats. And in a non-presidential year, when Juan Siscomani won, it was a Republican benefit. So
And
we'll see.
this will all be about turnout. That's what we've been
will
talking
all
about. And I want to talk to you guys about turnout because we've had so many different storylines about how the GOP kind of farmed some of this out to, like, Turning Point, for example. A lot of it was online. Democrats still doing the traditional door knocking. I think it's too early. It is too early, frankly, to make assumptions about how the get out the vote went for both sides. But I think that once the results are final, I think that there could be books written about,
Absolutely.
how this went, because this will tell people how to run campaigns in the future, potentially.
Now, what's different about the CD1 race is that's all Maricopa County. So
Right.
we kind of know, as we have discussed, what that voter universe that's in. In CD6 and the race,
Siscomani race.
and the Siscomani race that's up. But in CD6, the Siscomani Engel race, you have Cochise County, you have Pima County, and I think you have
Parts of Pinal.
and parts of Pinal in that. So we've got who's turned in those ballots now, and how big of a drop that is. We'll see that here over time this evening. We just don't know. With the certainty, we know what's in Maricopa County in CD1.
District 4, this is going to be kind of a no-brainer, I think. Greg Stanton, the incumbent here, Kelly Cooper, also a rematch from 2022.
Yes.
Greg Stanton doing very well there, as to be expected. District 7, Rahul Grijalva, he's the incumbent there, and he should do very well there. We did skip over the Andy Biggs one.
And by the way, Raul Congressman Grijalva has announced this is his last
Right,
election.
right. And he was battling cancer.
He's battling
Yes,
cancer.
yes.
Yeah. So this is his last election, and long-time Southern Arizona politician from a very large political dynasty down in Pima County. He was on the Pima County Board of Supervisors forever, and came into Congress when it was after Moyudo, wasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
And no, it was
No.
after Pastor.
Yeah.
No.
No.
No, I can't remember. Now we're
Yeah.
challenging
Okay.
him
We'll
on that.
figure it out.
But he is the chairman of a very important committee in
Right.
the U.S. House. and it'd be sad for Arizona to lose that seniority. But
Well, it
this
was
was
the
his
chairman
last time.
when the
It
Republican.
was
Yes.
in the now he's in the minority.
Now he's
but
in the minority.
yes.
Yeah.
And he was one of the first members of Congress to basically say that Biden should step down. I mean,
Yes.
from our
Yes.
area,
Right.
and that was a big step coming
Right.
from him.
Totally.
And he said, no, I think it's time for Biden to step aside.
Yeah, he's also been ranked as one of the most liberal members of the United States Congress.
Absolutely.
And from Arizona.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, but he was when the Democrats were in power, and they very well may be in power
Right.
in the House because the Senate's probably going to go Republican and the House probably going to go Democrat. He may again be the chairman of the House Resources Committee, which is so important in the state of Arizona because of
Yeah.
all of our public lands, and they
Right.
also oversee all of Native American affairs.
District 8, so this is open because of Debbie Lesko, who was running for the Board of Supervisors. Abe Hamadeh, he is expected to win this just because it is a heavy Republican district. We're talking about a lot of the different retirement communities, Sun Cities, Peoria, Anthem. And Abe, he ran for the Attorney General race in 2022, lost by just 280 votes, but he's back in the political mix, and it looks like, we'll continue to watch this, but assuming he wins this one, he's going to go to Congress.
I'm surprised how close it is.
I was about to say
really?
that.
Really?
right?
Absolutely.
It should not be that close.
Really?
He should be in the 60s, in my
Right.
opinion.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm stunned by how close that
It's
is.
a 100-yard dash, and he starts at the 60-yard
60-yard
line.
line.
The other guy's at 0.
Yeah.
And so this really should be a blowout, but it's closer because Hamadeh does, he's not loved by all, and the
Correct.
Republican Party's got its fracture,
Yep.
and that fracture is voting for the other guy. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm confident he's going to win, but it should be more lopsided than this.
District 9, Paul Gosar and Kwesi Smith. Paul Gosar, the incumbent there, 64%.
That's
Kwesi
what
Smith.
that last
That's
race
That's what it
should
should
look
look
That's
like.
what it should look
That's
like.
what
in
it should
District
look
8
like.
in
Okay.
District 8.
So it should be that very comfortable margin. I wanted to go through some of the quick races here in Maricopa County, if we can, like county attorney, county sheriff, for example. Okay, so this is going to be a tight one. Jerry Sheridan up ahead. He was Joe Arpaio's right-hand man, 51% of the vote. Tyler Camp, a longtime Phoenix police officer, a lieutenant, he has 48% of the vote. Let's go through some of the other Maricopa County races. County attorney, Rachel Mitchell, the incumbent there, 53% to Tamika Wooten, 47% of the vote there. And then Tim Stringham, okay, here we go, 50%.
Here we go.
There we
Justin
go.
Heat,
Yep.
49.9%. All right, so this is one that is going to be watched very closely because Justin Heat, he's been an election denier, and he's running for county recorder. And he got through the primary, defeated Stephen Richer, and Tim Stringham, it kind of came in, chosen by the Democratic Party. Very nice background, a lot of accolades throughout his career, and a lot of people have their eyes on this. This is one that a lot of people are watching nationally too,
No,
frankly.
they
Frankly.
are. You're
They
right.
are.
And this is like some sort of arbiter of things. And think if Carrie Lake ran for recorder, that's kind of the same dynamic. I mean, and that's who Heap is. And the fact that he's down by just a few votes in the early going, I guess there's maybe half the votes counted, is not where he wanted to be for sure.
no.
Heap, you mean?
Heap
Okay.
is not where Heap wanted to be.
Especially if Trump was up just by a little bit.
Exactly
a
right.
little bit.
Exactly right. So the prayer by the Heap faction will be that the day of voter is a Republican voter that is voting for his ticket.
Got it. Okay. We do have some live shots too. I don't know if we have Mark Martinez available at this point. Give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. That's totally fine if we have him. We do have Mark Martinez. He's watching the balance of power. He's also watching the big board for us. Mark, good to see you. Okay, so what do we have? I know we've really kind of been doing some deep dives here on some of the races, the congressional races, but what are you seeing on the big board right now?
Yeah, you guys, right now what we're looking at is we're seeing Donald Trump with 205 electoral votes to Kamala Harris with 117. Not a lot of surprises on the map, at least not so far just yet. We've got Donald Trump taking Texas, taking his home state of Florida, taking a lot of the states that we obviously thought he would take. Kamala Harris, same sort of story, Colorado, Illinois, New York. So those are the big states so far. No battleground states reporting in just yet. And if people are watching this, looking at over here, wondering what's going on with these, well, that is because Maine and Nebraska, they are not winner-take-all states when it comes to electoral college. They break theirs up based on popular vote for the state and then also congressional districts popular vote in those districts. So that's why we're seeing this over here. So far, Kamala Harris has Maine with 1 electoral, and then Donald Trump, you can see he's got 4 for Nebraska. So that's where we're seeing things stand right now, you guys. We're still, of course, waiting for the battleground states to report in. These races, of course, so close, and the margins of error were so close that it's going to take a bit maybe to get those numbers coming in. We're hoping to get at least one of the battleground states coming in fairly soon, but so far none of them are reporting back in, you guys. Ellen, it looks like you guys are having a lot of fun in that loft, by the way.
We are. We got snacks, Mark.
I saw that.
We got cheese. We got some brie. Yeah, it's a long night, and I don't know if you heard or not, but so the first batch that came in from Maricopa County, I mean, these are results that were dropped off back on Tuesday. So, I mean, from Tuesday on, we don't have results past that right now. So,
yeah.
I mean, this is gonna take some time. This is going to be days and days.
And I don't know if you can ask Stan or Doug this question. This is something I was wondering. I was seeing this a lot today on social media. People that I know who are really invested in voting, they're taking pictures in their vehicles or whatever, going to drop off their early mail-in ballot that they're dropping off in person. And I don't understand quite I don't necessarily get the logic behind that unless you're really undecided at the last minute. But if you've had this thing for weeks, I'm not sure why you wait to take it to the last minute.
I know. I think a lot of people are wondering that same question. And I think it's just, I think maybe getting the message out is something that we need to do. Or, I mean, the law might need to change, frankly. And I know that you know, Stephen Richer has talked about it a couple of times, that maybe that needs to happen, that maybe there needs to be a law that says you need to drop off your ballot by the Friday before the election or Saturday or something in order for it to count. But then that would mean that votes would be thrown out, frankly. And, you know, I mean, this system right now, it's great because it allows people to physically drop off their ballot until 7 o'clock at night, the day of, which is great. And that means that it's basically very lenient, frankly. But that also means that it is going to take days and days when you're in a swing state. I mean, if we were in California or New York or now Florida, then obviously, you know, things are going to get called, and we just aren't.
And we've seen this past week, especially. There's been a lot of outreach by the County Board of Supervisors, by Adrian Fontes, the Secretary of State, by Stephen Richer, the County Recorder, to tell people this is why it may take 10 to 13 days after Election Day to get these all counted, for us to know exactly what the numbers are going to look like, trying to let people know why this is taking so long, and that there's not some big conspiracy theory, but you know, there's a lot of misinformation going out there, especially on social media, when people don't understand how Maricopa County works, how Arizona works, and a lot of these people from out of state are wondering what the heck's going on here, especially in Maricopa County. So, you know, I guess the more outreach they could do, the better, but it's just a process we have to get through.
Yeah, I know. So some of the races on the East Coast have already been called, as far as like Rick Scott, for example, in Florida, and then Angela Alsobrooks in Maryland. Some of the key Senate races. Do you have any update for us on any of the other races that you've been watching for the balance of power?
Well, right now we're still waiting. My balance of power is over here, so I can actually take a look at that. And we'll see if we've got anything going on in the Senate. And I actually don't have, unfortunately, the way our system is set up, I do not have names to put to these red dots. So I don't know. I believe, though, from what I was seeing, that Colin Allred did lose to Ted Cruz.
He did.
So that would be, that wouldn't affect, I mean, that would affect this, of course. So we're seeing right now 47 Republican, 35 Democrat. There were 34 seats up for election, 23 Democrats, 11 Republicans. And again, we're talking about some races, including Montana and Ohio, John Tester in Montana and Sherrod Brown in Ohio, that will likely determine the balance of power in the Senate, probably going to Republicans tonight unless Democrats can pull off an incumbent Republican GOP seat. But that would require them to do that in a typically red state. So that's kind of what we're watching tonight. Right now, though, as you could see, it is Republicans leading 48 to the Democrats 35. Not all of these were, of course, up for election in these numbers here. This is the number we're looking at. So keeping an eye on that tonight as these all start rolling in. It's going to be an interesting night, but as I think you guys were talking about, too, it could be a long night. It could be a long several days before we know.
Absolutely. Yeah. And some of the other races that we were talking about, just some of the close contests already in like Congressional District 1, for example.
Yeah.
That is a tight one. That is a tight one. And it's going to be a tight one as Stan and Doug were talking about.
Yes, we're taking a look at these districts here. I mean, we're probably not big surprises when you look at the map as far as the counties that are going for the districts, rather. So we're seeing this one though. I heard you guys kind of react to this when we saw the numbers coming in for District 1. So that is a interesting number. But if you've ever lived in a Amish Shaw district, which I did for a little while, you're definitely going to get a door knock from him.
Oh yeah.
He's going to try to get every vote he can. He's known for that. It may have paid off. We're still early, but it may have paid off for him.
Yeah. Mark, thank you so much. We're going to check in with you in a little bit. I believe we have someone from the Navajo Nation. Is that right? Okay. So we are going to talk about the Navajo Nation in just a moment. We're trying to get a Zoom call worked out there. Someone who represents the Navajo Nation. They had some problems there. There was a bomb threat that was called in, and they sued to get their polls, basically the opening of those polls, extended so that the closing time wouldn't be 7 o'clock, but it would actually be 9 o'clock. So we're trying to get a Zoom call worked out there. When we get that, they'll tell me and we'll go there. I want to bring in Mike Noble now if we can. And Mike Noble is with Noble Predictive Insights. I'm so glad you're here. You're the polling guru. And there has been so much discussion about polls leading up to this election. People freaking out about polls either way, right or left. Frankly, it doesn't matter. And there's just been a lot of questions about polling. And is it because of social media and just there's so much information out there now that is available and people have access to that information?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing is that polls, they weren't as prevalent as they used to be.
Right.
So you'd see a couple of the main organizations put out the polls, but now it seems like almost anyone can kind of put out a poll.
Right.
And you'll see a time where certain polls will be put out there that will show a total different result than anybody else is showing, but yet it'll make a headline and make a lot of the news. Perfect example, 2 years ago in Arizona, when you looked at the governor's race, when everyone said, didn't that governor's race result surprise you? I go, absolutely not. We knew it would be incredibly close, and it was close. And they go, well, wasn't Kari Lake ahead by 10 points? And I go, no, no one with one poll showed that out of 15 or 20 polls.
Right.
But yet it prescribed to what they believed they thought was true.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the issue you run into. And it's not these people are being duped or anything else. It's just, I think that's been one of the issues is knowing kind of who to trust.
Right.
When it comes to the numbers. And just when you look at just the numbers right now in Arizona, you'll see ones that's showing Harris ahead or Trump ahead. Same with Senate.
Right.
You see ones with Lake ahead by 2, 3, 4 points when an average he was down by 6.5.
Right. Well, and I know there was a poll that came out like Data Orbital, and I mean, to be fair, Data Orbital is run by the son of her former treasurer.
Yes.
Former campaign treasurer.
That is correct. Yes.
And he's still involved in her campaign with the Senate.
Yes. And
so but there needs to be a disclaimer, I feel like, if that is a pollster who's putting out information that is significant information.
Correct. I think it matters where the source is coming from. And you're seeing the red team and blue team, Democrats and Republicans both, take advantage where you see kind of this flood of polls. Perfect example, last election, you saw this whole red wave that a lot of people were expecting. Here's the thing, that wasn't true. That was all manufactured by kind of this coordinated effort to put out these polls to show that was it. And what the truth of the matter was, it was a red ripple. And if anything, Republicans very much underperformed a year. They should have cleaned the Democrats' clock.
Yeah. I wanted to show the presidential race here in Arizona, if we can put that up, because I wanted to get Mike's perspective. And I was asked about this, actually. The New York Times poll going into the election had Trump up by 4 points in Arizona. And someone asked me about that. And I said, I don't know, because Noble Predictive Insights, which is based here in the Valley, had Trump up by 1 Trump up by 1, not
Correct.
4.
And
And I
Lake
said,
down
I
4.
just based, talking to you, I felt like that was a little bit more on par just because our patterns, the people that live in our community and whatnot.
Yeah, so when you look at the New York Times poll, and by the way, they were the most accurate pollster in the country. They were #1. We were number 11, so we weren't far behind.
Okay.
And when you looked at them, they actually, that's in the realm possibility. That basically is Trump's ceiling. And in my estimation, I think the highest he can get in Arizona is +4. But when you look at in general his average, he's at about 49% vote share, 50. He rarely goes above 50. I mean, he's
Okay.
kind of capped out of where he's at. It was mainly because Harris was a little bit underperforming in that poll, and sometimes that's just statistical noise that happens in there. And so Arizona, I think, is going to be close, and as we're seeing right now, but as like our poll of record, we had Trump +1 and Lake behind by 4. So about a 5-point differential between Trump and Lake. And if you look at the initial numbers, it's already following kind of the pattern that we were expecting so far.
Okay. Hold that thought. I do believe that we have this Zoom call ready from a member of the Navajo Nation, if we can bring her up. Thank you so much for joining us. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So tell me just kind of about what happened. And I know that there was a lawsuit that was filed right away to get the polling places basically extended so that they wouldn't close until 9 o'clock, some of them anyway. Tell me about what happened.
So first of all, we started encountering a lot of issues at our polling sites for Apache County earlier, 7 a.m. this morning. Some were related to printing issues. Ballots were only being printed one page, only the proposition sides of the ballot. So meaning some of our people didn't get a chance to vote on the candidates. And we also had provisional ballots that weren't there. We only had handfuls of them at the polling site, so we didn't get a full delivery of those ballots. And to this day, to this night, some of our polling places were still waiting. And we also had electronic issues with our voting machines. They kept going on and off. So overall, we didn't get no clear communication or notification from Apache County. So, however, we did have a slight advantage with the court case that was filed, but it's to 9 communities of our nation.
9 communities. Okay. So what has turnout been like? I mean, was turnout strong? I know we saw some videos that lines were pretty long, but tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, our Navajo people are very overall dispassionate about getting our voices heard and casting a vote. So we had many elders, all multi-generational homes that were coming out from oldest to youngest that were in long lines, even though the weather was not great. It was cold, and we only had at each polling sites only one electronic voting machine that was going. However, it kept going on and off, but our people still stayed vigilant and stayed in line and were patient. And right now, we still have long lines in certain of those 9 communities right now.
What was driving turnout? Was it Jonathan Nez, for example, on the ballot, or was it Kamala Harris? What do you attribute to the excitement to get out and make voices heard?
I think every election cycle, our Navajo people are always very enthusiastic to vote. So it didn't matter who is on the ballot. It's just really participating in our civic duty to having the right to vote. So I know we have great turnouts every election, just not depending on candidates, but we are very excited for our own Navajo Nation leader who is also on the ballot. But overall, I think just having the overall participation from Navajo Nation has always been there. So it was just very unfortunate that we had to deal with hurdles in Apache County today.
Yeah. Before you go, so some of the polling sites are open until 9 o'clock, but as far as the printing problems, what was kind of the resolution, if there was any resolution?
Overall, we didn't have, like I mentioned, we didn't have no clear communication from the county. We did try to reach out to the Arizona Secretary of State and the elections director. However, we were just told, okay, we're on it, but we don't really know where the issues are. But We will try to have the team respond. A lot of these deployment from the county are from off the Navajo Nation, so you have to encounter the long transportation routes of trying to deliver these ballots. But overall, we're just really happy that at least 9 of our communities were extended voting hours. However, over still more than 20, I would say we're not considered to extend those hours.
And so 9 o'clock, right? I mean, it's coming up. It's just a few minutes left, but if folks are in line, they can still vote.
Yes, absolutely. We've been trying to, all right, we got the decision, I would say about 8 minutes before 7 o'clock
Okay.
about the extension. So we took matters into our own hands, started calling the poll workers that we knew that we had contact with to start. Many of them were already starting to shut down and close the gates, and they didn't even get notification as soon as possible from the county. So I even took the initiative to call one of my home chapters, my home community of Cottonwood, who were granted an extension, to make sure that they keep the polls open and start calling everyone that to come on by. If you were turned away, I know many of our people were turned away today, but they have a 9 p.m. to go back. But it's not the same as being in line at 7 or 8 in the morning and having to travel a couple of miles again to get back to those polls.
Yeah. Thank you so much for spending time with us tonight and letting us know kind of what was going on. We really appreciate your time. And again, if folks are in line at those 9 sites before 9 o'clock, then they still will be allowed to vote. I know this will be a story that we will continue to follow, because this certainly could impact the outcome of the election. Thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so Mike Noble is back here, and Mike, I know that we were talking about some of the polling that was done beforehand. What kind of updates are you getting from folks right now on an election night? I know you have a very busy just day, night, whatever. But I mean, is this kind of like your Super Bowl, for example? Or
It's funny. I've been getting that a lot today. I noticed the Super Bowl. I was like, man, I am such a nerd. And I hang out with a bunch of other nerds too. And so, yeah, basically we're seeing like the early trend, because, you know, you're watching the news, for example, right now, they're talking about the different states, these counties, how it's going. Kind of the easy, digestible takeaway, what they're seeing, at least nationally right now, is that Trump is outperforming his 2020 numbers by running up the vote higher than what he had previously. And Harris currently is either equaling the numbers that Biden had last
in 2020.
time. Correct, or underperforming in the suburban and urban areas.
Okay.
So kind of, at least the early trend so far, that's one of the main takeaways we've taken away so far. So Harris needs to kind of either start overperforming in some of these urban areas. So a lot of it's going to come down to this election day of vote, which is a little harder to gather right now. But, you know, election being, if she doesn't do that, Trump can start running away with this thing. But if not, it'll be incredibly close.
I just got an update that Trump has been declared the winner in Iowa, and that's significant because Ann Selzer came out. She's a polling guru.
What?
Okay, so, but I don't know what the margin is.
She's great.
What's the margin, guys? I don't know what the margin is on that one. But anyway, so
she missed it.
So Ann Selzer over the weekend came out with a poll that said that Kamala would win Iowa by 47% to 44% of the vote. She is with the Des Moines paper and has been, I mean, is well respected
she got the
in
last
the
3
polling industry. She's gotten the last 3 right for Iowa, right? I mean, this is, she knows the folks in Iowa.
Correct.
Okay. 55 to 42%?
Yeah.
Wow, 55 to 42%.
It's going to be outside the margin.
Big time outside the margin.
Yeah, so it's funny. I was actually posted something on this recently, and it's such an impossible standard you're held to as a pollster.
Okay.
Like, even for myself, like I've been incredibly accurate, but I have missed some races. Like, that happens, but it's the nature of the business. But everyone thinks you have to be infallible. You're always going to get right. Frankly, when I saw her numbers initially, it just didn't make sense with what was going. Like, for example, she had 65 and older males 30 points more Democratic than they were how they voted 4 years ago.
Okay.
I know there's been some shifting of coalitions here,
Right.
but not by 30 points. And not only that, the gender divide between where males have gone more Republican and females have been going more Democrat.
Okay.
Like it just didn't like add up, and I know a lot of people were like pause, like wait, she's been right all this time. Will she be right again? But it just the numbers, frankly, didn't add up for me. And
Okay.
sometimes you can just get a bad sample. And frankly, I think she's an excellent pollster. It's just I think the standard kind of gets a little bit too blown up about being infallible on it when sometimes you can get a bad sample.
I don't know if we've gone to this yet, but Prop 139, the abortion proposition, I wanted to get that because we have
nailed
not
it.
covered that, and you pulled that.
And nailed it.
You nailed it? You nailed it.
Well, I had it like, so we had 57% saying they would vote in support of it.
Okay.
And the no is roughly where it was. But, we have a margin of undecideds that were in that race. Like, unlike the presidential, there's like 2% or like no one undecided in that contest. You had some there, and I suspected it would break more towards a yes. I was telling everybody that it'll probably pass around 60% of the vote. Currently, it's at 63.
Okay.
We'll see where it goes. But it's just, when you look at this issue, pulled it a bunch, it's at just where the state is. It's not so much of like, hey, is it 24 weeks or 26 weeks, like that gray area. The electorate looks at it as a pro-choice or pro-life. And where
Right.
the electorate's at, it's compared to 10 years ago, we're just not the pro-life state that we used to be. And that issue has just moved into a very acceptable category.
Yeah, and I mean, currently, the law right now, it's a 15-week ban, but there are no exceptions for rape or incest. And a lot of people say, like, that's unacceptable. And so, getting this on the ballot and having this a constitutional amendment where it is up to a woman and her doctor, people, and you polled,
And
that's what
majority
people
of
said.
Republicans are on board. Like, and there's certain things on the abortion that they absolutely all agree with. So when you look at abortion, for example, the rape and incest portion, like 9 in 10 Republicans agree with that position. So it's interesting how it's moved. But remember, Donald Trump has also moved the party on that issue. It used to be, protecting the sanctity of life, and they just recently changed in their articles or in their platform at the RNC that, they're moving away from that. And that's why the abortion issue is now becoming a battleground topic, but where before the blue team owned pro-choice and red team owned pro-life. So
Yeah.
again, we're seeing this big shift between the parties, which is the biggest coalition shift between the two parties since the civil rights movement in the mid-60s.
Wow. Yeah, in Florida, they also had an abortion amendment on their ballot. That did not pass, but they needed a 60%
Threshold. They were at like
threshold.
57 though.
And they were so close.
Very close.
But they have a 6-week ban in Florida, and they didn't get that. They didn't get the threshold, and they did not pass recreational marijuana either in Florida.
I was surprised by that one.
Really?
Well, I mean, just
Yeah.
Florida. I mean, but they also have a lot of retirees. So with this massive class of boomers retiring,
Yep.
Florida is one of the main spots that they're moving down to. And what we see with like the marijuana issue in general, it really breaks on generational differences. So basically, if you're 65 and older, you're the most against recreational marijuana. But as you go down in age, and then the most pro folks are obviously the 18 to 34-year-olds. So there's a very generational gap. And so I think mainly because of the older voting electorate, and with they have there's a little bit more conservative tilt.
Yeah.
In that state.
Well, yeah, and I mean, Rick Scott won easy tonight, which a lot of people had pegged that. Oh, maybe he's in trouble in Florida. He was not in trouble in Florida at all.
No.
Right?
No.
I
He
mean,
was okay.
so, and there has been a trend too of people moving from the Midwest to Florida, like during the COVID pandemic.
Yeah.
They liked the policies of Ron DeSantis and his administration, and so they moved down to Florida.
Yeah, and we see a lot of geographical sorting ever since COVID, where people, there was actually a big study by 538 recently done, because like a term you hear in Arizona a lot is that, oh, all these Californians moving here bringing their ideology. It's funny, when they did this assessment of Arizona, they showed actually Republicans were very much, the people moving here definitely leaned to Republican ideology and not Democrat. So actually with all these extra folks coming here, it's actually become more Republican and not more Democratic, which I think is the opposite of what a lot of people believe.
Okay. Prop 314, do we have Prop 314 real quick that we can pull up? Just a quick look at that. And then we will go to Brian Webb, who I believe is interviewing
too.
Yasemin Ansari. Whenever that interview starts, we'll take it live. It hasn't started yet. So let's look at Prop 314 right now. So this right now is passing. And if this does pass, it would give local law enforcement the ability to enforce federal law. It would allow local law enforcement to arrest people who are crossing the border not at a legal port of entry. So if they're crossing illegally, then it would allow local law enforcement to enforce federal law. Right now, it's passing. And there was some thought, Mike, that this, would draw out people to support Trump, and that the abortion prop would draw out people to support
Democrats, yeah.
the vice president.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to have both of these props doing so well. But you know what though? I mean, when you look at the first
Is it
data drop,
surprising?
when you look at the first data drop though, when basically it's virtually tied in the presidential race, that's basically tied too, right? I mean, okay, let's go to Brian Webb right now. He's interviewing Yasemin Ansari. Let's listen in.
I have been running for Congress for a year and a half now, have knocked on over 180,000 doors, my team and I, in Congressional District 3, so I'm so thrilled to have the support and have earned the trust of the residents of this amazing district.
What do you hear when you knock on those doors? What's the plan on day one at your new job?
The number one issue that I have heard about is housing affordability and the rising cost of living, coupled with addressing homelessness and just making sure that as we grow as a city, we're maintaining our affordability and our sustainability. I have a background in climate policy. I also was a councilwoman in Phoenix. So two of my top priorities when I go to office is to not only work on legislation to make housing more affordable and increase our housing supply, but also to work on addressing climate change. And I really want to make Arizona the capital of clean energy in the country, and I think we have a lot of potential there.
Talk to me. Have you even thought it through yet that day when you raise your hand and swear the oath and you get to work? What's that going to be like?
I've thought about it. For me, I'm the daughter of immigrants who came to this country in the 70s, and my parents immigrated from Iran, which was a country that they fled a persecution, they fled a revolution, and I don't think they ever thought possible that their daughter would be able to run for the United States Congress. And I'll be the youngest woman serving in next year's Congress, and I think that's an enormous responsibility. And for my generation, I am excited to work on the issues that are most pressing to us, housing and college affordability, climate change, reproductive rights, and hope to be a new voice and bring a fresh perspective to the Congress.
And you are the epitome of the American dream in one generation. Look at you. Talk about what that means to you and maybe an example to other kids out there, young people growing up in this country.
I hope it is an example. It's nice to be the first, but you never want to be the last. You want to open up doors for new people, and I've made it a priority in my campaign when I was a councilwoman to really hire young people. I've hired a number of high school students who still work for me now at ages of 21, 22, 23, and I can say that I've given them this professional experience, and I really just that's why I want to be in public service, because this country gave so much to my family. I want to make sure we're providing that for the next generation of Americans.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Appreciate your
Thank
time.
you so much. Have a great night.
You too. Thank you for talking to us. Okay, so there you have it. Congresswoman-elect Yasemin Ansari, District 3, the seat vacated by Ruben Gallego. He's moving out. She's moving in. Guys?
The Congressional District 3, and very well, this is a heavy Democratic district.
Heavy.
To be expected. Ruben Gallego just left this seat, and I mean, again, we knew that whoever won, so this was Yasemin ran against Raquel Tehran, and Yasemin was on the Phoenix City Council, young, an immigrant, and brilliant young woman, and now she's going to Congress.
Yeah, and she raised a lot of money. It didn't help, but yeah, it's one of the most Democratic districts in the country, actually. So it was one of those ones that you just got to win the primary, and the general's a toss-up. So Jeff Zink, applaud him running, and Alan over there, but need an act of God ultimately to try to win out in one of those districts, frankly.
Yeah. I think we do have Mark Martinez, that we can maybe go to Mark Martinez now with an update on kind of what's happening on the big board. Mark, so we heard that Donald Trump won Iowa and that the poll from Ann Seltzer was totally off this past weekend. So what do you have for us right now? And we're going to switch out Mike Noble with Stan and Doug. So we're going to do that little switcheroo. So kind of give us an update on what's happening on the big board.
Well, right now we're not looking at the electoral numbers right now.
Okay.
We can. We're set up right now to show what's going on in Arizona. If we want to take a look at that with presidential, these numbers kind of keep switching around on us as we expect on election night. These numbers are coming in, and this is a live update, by the way, as the numbers are being reported in. These are updating live through the Associated Press, updating these numbers. So right now we've got 50% of votes counted, that's the estimate. And in Arizona right now, again, a very tight race. We've got Donald Trump up by 49.7%, roughly 904,000 votes. Kamala Harris, 49.5%, just over almost 902,000 votes. So you see very narrow margins here, which is what we were expecting in tight races like this. We kept hearing it was going to be very close. It is playing out to be true. If we want to break down county by county, or at least to see some of these counties, how they're turning out, probably no big surprise here in Maricopa County. We're seeing Kamala Harris actually leading Donald Trump. That's not surprising. Joe Biden took the state, or this county rather, along with Bill Clinton when he won in '96. And we've got Donald Trump at 48.5% to Kamala Harris at 50.7%. Coconino County, the same thing. We've got Harris leading, which by a lot there. Not terribly surprising. Now, if you want to look at some of the more red counties, Mojave, we've got Donald Trump leading by a lot there. So these are kind of holding true to what we'd expect. For some perspective here, in 2020, when Joe Biden won, he had 5 Arizona counties which got him to win here in Arizona. That narrow win, 10,500 votes, 0.3% of the overall votes cast in Arizona. But those counties were Coconino, Apache, Maricopa, Pima, and Santa Cruz. So far, these 4 are holding true to that. We have not had any reporting back yet from Apache County. They had some trouble up there. In fact, they had to file a late suit to try to get that voting continued up there tonight. So that may be why we're not getting numbers back just yet from Apache County. But when those come in, we expect probably to see the same thing we saw in 2020. So that's what we've got so far tonight right now as far as the presidential race in Arizona. We've got a lot more races to monitor, of course, Ellen, and we're keeping an eye on all those numbers as they're coming in. We can check out congressional district races as well. I know you were showing some of them. Some surprises out there tonight.
Yeah, there definitely have been so far, Mark. And even with the first data drop, even though we know that, the counting here in Maricopa County and across Arizona is going to take a few days at least that we know of. But yeah, there definitely have been some surprises. Something that we're also going to be watching too is just kind of the state legislature, because there is a chance that it could flip. And that would give Democrats control for the first time since like the 1960s, I believe. And that would be a huge story with a Democratic governor in Katie Hobbs. So we're going to be watching that. Actually, I think Doug Cole is here back now. Mark, we'll check in with you again.
Sure.
Let us know if you have an update. Appreciate you. Okay, Doug, let's talk about the legislature, because, I mean, you're tracking the legislature. And if it were to flip, I know Republicans have kind of talked about this, though, as saying it might flip, right? And they were kind of maybe expecting it possibly to flip.
Yeah, well, the legislature has been both houses have been 1 vote margin for many years.
Correct.
In
each one.
Each one. So in the Senate, it's 16-14 Republican. In the House, it's 31-29. So it's been the goal of the Democratic Party in Arizona to try to flip that, and the National Democratic Party. So they've thrown millions of dollars into these legislative races.
Yeah.
Millions for positions that only pay $24,000 a year.
Right.
So, but as it looks right now, and there's a number of swing districts here in the state of Arizona, and it looks like 2 of them right now. District 2 up in central North Valley of Phoenix.
Okay.
That's the Shauna Bullock, who's the current senator right now. She's being challenged by Judy Schwiebert, who was the representative of that district. She's ahead right now. Remember, it's still early here. We got days to go.
Yep.
But that was a target race.
Okay.
And then interestingly enough.
Oh yeah, we're showing up that. I think we have that. If we can show that State Senate District 2. Yep. And Shauna, by the way, is married to Clint Bullock, who is on the state Supreme Court. And there was an effort by folks who were pushing for Prop 139, the abortion proposition, to pass, to get her husband off the state Supreme Court, because he was one of the judges, and along with Catherine King, who voted to bring back the 1864 near total abortion ban. So there was an effort to get those 2 not to retain those 2 judges. But Shauna looks like she might be in a little bit of trouble as well as we were
Yeah,
kind of
but
saying.
conversely, back to her husband, he's actually ahead.
He is.
In his retention election. But so that's the one district that would be a net a Democrat gain.
Okay.
The other district that seems to be pretty well on its way to flip again is down in Pima County. It's mainly in Pima County. It's LD 17.
Okay.
The current incumbent, Justine Wadsack, got
Oh, yes.
defeated in the primary by the former Senator Vince Leach. So he's running against a newcomer named John McLean.
Okay.
And this has been a solid red district for so many years. It's northern Pima County, southern Pinal County.
Right.
And this is probably one of the biggest upsets if this holds.
Oh.
So if you add these 2 together, the Democrats now control the Senate by 16 to 14.
Right.
Yeah, and that's has not happened since 2001, and only has happened once since like 1965. So that would be
in 2001 and 2002 it was tied.
It was tied.
Right.
That's right. 1991
and 1992 it was a Democratic.
But it would be a real earthquake for the state Senate.
The House, I know, District 4. Have you heard any update on that? That
Yes.
was like Matt Grass and
Gresham and
Gresham
Kelly, former
Kelly Butler's
Kelly Butler.
expected to win that,
Correct.
right?
But as it stands right now, that's LD4, and that's Paradise, the town of Paradise Valley,
Mm-hmm.
Arcadia area. That right now shows that Kelly Butler has a comfortable lead.
Right.
And then Gresham is coming in second, and
Over Matt Grass.
Over Matt Grass. That's
Okay.
correct. He's coming in third. Now remember, it's tight. These are tight races.
Right.
What's interesting about Gresham and Grass, Gresham beat Matt Grass on the Madison School Board, knocked him off the Madison School Board.
yes.
So they've run against each other before.
Yeah.
So that's a race we're looking at. It looks like District 2, which Schwiebert, remember that was a Republican Democrat district.
Yes.
It looks like the Democrats, their candidate, whose name escapes me right now, maybe they'll pull it up on the House side. She's coming. She looks like she's going to retain that Democrat seat along with the Republican incumbent.
Yeah.
What would it mean if the legislature flipped and you had Katie Hobbs as the governor? Would that mean that the school voucher program would get thrown in the garbage? What would happen potentially?
I think the school voucher thing would be target number 1. You're
Yeah.
right about that. There would also be
At least reform
at
it,
least
right?
reform
At
of
least
it.
have an income requirement or something, right?
Something. And they may even do away with it. Also, water legislation would be dramatically
agree with that.
different
Yeah.
because of the governor and Democratic majority.
Yeah.
The theme so far, I know we're early, but the theme so far is that the Democrats are having a good night at the Arizona legislature.
Right.
And there was a lot of conventional wisdom in our world around the state capitol that Republicans were going to hold the state Senate and the state House. But as right now, it's looking just the opposite, that the Senate will go Democratic, the House will split or go 1 vote Democratic, and so a big night.
Or it can stay 1 vote Republican, depending upon some of these outlying races.
We're still already trying to guess,
Yeah.
but Democrats are doing very well so far in the Arizona legislature.
Yeah.
And then you also have, you have Adrian Fontes, you have Chris Mays. That would be like kind of that would be a big change.
It'd be like
in
1964
Yeah,
all
it's
over again.
1964 all over again.
In
And seriously,
Arizona.
that's
Honestly.
literally the last time that we had a Democratic governor who was Terry Goddard's father. Yeah, it was
right.
Terry Goddard's father.
And a Democratic House and Senate.
Senate,
Not to
correct.
mention Secretary of State, Attorney General. That's
Right.
yeah. This was a Democratic state in the early 60s.
Right.
But it
And-
was a conservative.
A conservative
we
place.
called them Pinto Democrats.
Kind of like the Blue Dog Democrats
Kinda
in
like
Texas,
Texas.
for
Exactly.
Right, we called them
example.
Pinto Democrats.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Pinto.
Yeah.
Nice. But Goddard, he was instrumental with water back in the day,
He was.
right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
and that was thank goodness,
Yeah.
right? Because we have the canal system and we have people that were
True.
were forward thinking back then.
True. We've always
and-
done water well in Arizona.
Yeah, we have.
Right.
And it's always been a nonpartisan issue.
And has been nonpartisan.
Historically, until now,
now.
of course.
Yeah.
But so if the legislature becomes Democratic, certain fundamental things will change. And we haven't had a Democratic unity government in Arizona since before 1966.
Yes.
Okay.
So it would be 50 years plus
Exactly.
that this would be a rarity.
Stan and I were very small children.
Yes, we were. In Pinell County.
In Pinell County together.
In Pinell County,
Actually, yeah.
playing on the playground. And as far as like the Board of Supervisors, that's also something you're watching too.
Correct.
Could that flip as well?
Well, as of right now, remember the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors historically for the last, 40 years, Stan?
Yeah, at least
40 years has always been run by the Republicans. And it's historically been 4-1. It's a 5-member board. It's been 4-1. But there are 2 highly competitive races going on in the nation's 5th largest county. That's District 1,
Okay.
which is...
So, here we go.
Here
Joe
we are
Navarro,
with
Mark
Joe
Stewart.
Navarro
There it
and
is.
Mark Stewart. Now, what's interesting about this, Mark Stewart beat Chairman Jack Sellers, who's chairman of the Board of Supervisors, in the primary, but after Jack then endorsed Joel Navarro,
Okay.
who is a retired fireman,
And he's a member of the Tempe City Council.
and he's also a member of the Tempe City Council. So that dynamic's going on there. So that would be a Democrat gain. And then in District 3, which is current Supervisor Bill Gates' district,
Right.
you have former State Senator Kate Brophy-McGee running against former Phoenix City Councilman and also a firefighter, Danny Valenzuela. So you can see, that those are 2. This is the most swing district on the Board of Supervisors.
Right.
And then adding District 5, which is longtime Democrat Supervisor Steve Gallardo, you got 3 to 2.
Wow. And
Yeah,
Thomas
big
Galvin is already on there.
Yeah, remember he
And
was
he's
challenged.
more of a moderate, wouldn't you say?
Don't say that.
Don't say that. Don't say it.
I don't
You're-
tell
you're
him.
not allowed to say
I
that.
can't say is that a bad? Is that
The
a dirty
moderate's
word?
a bad word in the Republican primary.
But he handily beat former State Senator Michelle Ugenti Rita in the
Right.
primary, and as you can see,
He's coasting to victory.
He's coasting to
here.
Yeah.
victory
Right.
here,
He's
and this
popular.
right, and this is Scottsdale,
Yeah.
Mesa.
Northern Mesa, Scottsdale district. So
We are expecting Ruben Gallego to address the media at some point. Whenever that happens, we'll of course go to that. And right now he is leading Republican Kerry Lake in the race for the U.S. Senate. He's up 53% to about 46%. That is a live look right now at the Arizona Democratic Party headquarters watch party. And as you guys were talking about, people must be feeling pretty good right now. Maybe not necessarily in the presidential race, but as far as the Arizona Democratic Party, you got to be feeling like you're in a good spot right now.
So far they really are. Every initial indication is they're performing at or better than they expected. And that's it. We'll see.
It's early.
The mystery that is here for all of us is, what is the day of voter like?
Right.
Are they a conservative voter? Are they a moderate voter? Are they a liberal voter? And that's going to determine, because Democrats have an inch ahead on some of these swing districts in the state Senate, for instance. And the day of could rescue the Republicans, but we'll see.
We have as far as like we're looking at all the different numbers and the breakdown, and Democrats have a disadvantage just as far as numbers, like when you're looking at the number game.
Right, right.
And so that just means that they need more independents to break their way.
Well, remember in Arizona, go back to the overall voter registration in the state, 35% Republican, 34% independent, and 29% Democrat. So that's the voter breakdown. And again, you do need the independent voters in order to be successful, generally, because there's only a 1-point difference between that and the Republican Party.
So many Republican folks, and you guys worked with John McCain, and where are these McCain Republicans right now? And where do you think they're falling? Looks like they're probably not supporting Kerry Lake.
Right.
But
That's what I was going to say.
but are they?
They're not with Kerry Lake.
But are they supporting Donald Trump?
Some of them are.
Some of them are. The initial Maricopa County numbers are Kamala Harris is ahead by a fraction, and they're helping her with that.
Yes.
That's where they are. They're split on the president. They're certainly against Lake.
Yeah.
Because it's personal with
Right.
Lake.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, I think it reverts to norm. Then they're back to party and ideology.
Yeah, you can see the Trump coattails aren't going down into the U.S. Senate race, which was anticipated. That was anticipated because of her gubernatorial run 2 years ago. She still has not conceded. She's still in litigation.
Right, exactly.
Litigation on it. And remember, she told all those McCain voters to get out of the room.
Get the
But
heck
Maricopa
out.
County is nominally a Republican county, and the fact that Kamala is winning Maricopa County, albeit by a little bit, is a signal that McCain voter is with her and not with Trump.
I mean, we first referred to these as the Ducey Seminole voters back in 2016, where you had about roughly 200,000 voters that voted for Doug Ducey as governor and then voted for Kyrsten Sinema, who was then a Democrat, as U.S. Senator. So that's about 200,000. We think that probably that group of voters that are willing to switch in the high-profile races is probably more around 300,000 people right now. We also call them the 101 voters, because if you do a map of the valley, and if you look right down the 101, you will see that purplish.
Yeah.
Even though that there are more Republicans in that area, their voting pattern's more purple.
Yeah.
Yeah. And these are highly educated people we're
Yes,
talking about,
and-
right? High income, highly
correct.
educated folks that
All the way up to
they're
Scottsdale.
listening to
Yeah.
the news, they're watching the news.
Exactly.
And they're educated. And frankly, that's why on the ballot people are going maybe, Republican, Democrat, whatever. I mean, that's Arizona.
Yeah.
Which makes this unique. And it's so funny because when you do talk to folks in other states where they are so set on, straight down the ticket, we're just not like that.
We're just not like that. No, we're not.
Yeah.
In some states, there's a one button you can vote the whole party.
Yes.
One button.
And walk out.
Right.
And walk out. 2 minutes. We don't do that.
We don't do that here. We're a half hour. You got to be in there for a half hour.
Yeah. And I don't know if you get behind the scenes with the ballot just being so long. Was Ruben coming out? Okay. I believe Ruben Gallego is coming out. Let's listen in real quick. He's just walking up to the stage with his wife, the young son of Kate Gallego and Ruben Gallego. And let's listen in real quick.
Arizona. Welcome. Growing up the way that I did, the son of immigrants, I would never thought I would make it this far. To be here on this stage tonight. And while we're still waiting for results to come in, I believe that when all those ballots are counted and every Arizona's vote is counted, a poor Latino boy who grew up sleeping on the floor will be headed to the floor of the United States Senate. The first Latino senator in Arizona history. My name is Ruben Gallego. I'm a husband, a congressman, and a Marine. I'm a proud Arizonan and a proud father. I first want to thank my wife, Sydney. We started this campaign 22 months ago and have a 16-month-old daughter. So that tells you everything you need to know about the last 2 years and how it has not been easy. Thank you, babe. She was with me for every step of the way, and I love you. My sisters, Lisa and Laura, are here, taking care of my son, Michael. We're missing my other sister, Alex, tonight, who's at home, ready to have a baby any day now. My mom, where are you at? There you go. My mom, hey, mom. She raised us, all four of us alone, on a secretary's salary. And like many moms across the country, she did not have it easy. But she gave us everything she could. She worked night and day, all to give us a shot at success. Only in America, only in America, only in America can 4 children raised by an immigrant single mom grow up to become a teacher, a doctor, a businesswoman, and soon to be a senator. I wouldn't be here on this stage tonight if it wasn't for her. Gracias, mamá. As a kid, I slept on the floor of my living room so that my sisters can have beds. And I worked every job I could to help the family get by. Meat packing, construction, making pizzas, making hot dogs, you name it. And as a matter of fact, I think my boss at my hot dog stand's actually here, Steve Zerlentes. Steve, where are you at? Steve was a great mentor to me at a time when I didn't have any male mentors. Well, he taught me how to do a proper Chicago-style hot dog, no ketchup, and still let me study for all my exams and do my homework while still making hot dogs. I still have my first suit that I ever owned that my Uncle Al gave, who could not be here today. He gave it to me because when I went to college, I couldn't afford to buy a new suit. So he gave me one of his. When I got to college, I saw all the kids were happy because they were just happy to be there, happy to be at Harvard. I was happy because I finally got a bed. In college, one of my beds was cleaning the bathrooms of fellow Harvard students, scrubbing the toilets of the kids I had to see the next day. But I did it all proudly, because I believed that if I worked hard and followed the rules, even a poor kid would succeed in America. That's America. Because of that, I decided I wanted to serve my country. I wanted to serve my country, the country that gave my family a chance to live the American dream, the greatest country in the world. So I enlisted in the infantry of the United States Marine Corps. Hoorah! I know there's some out there. I had the honor of fighting alongside my brothers in Iraq in Lima Company 325, assigned to Al-Anbar, Iraq. They called us Lucky Lima at first, but unfortunately, eventually our luck ran out. Our company saw some of the hardest days of the war. And those were tough days. But the fight for my brothers was always worth it. And so is this fight for Arizona. We had a mantra on this campaign. Go everywhere and talk to everyone. And that's exactly what we did. We didn't take one vote for granted. For many candidates, Latinos and Native American voters are the afterthought. But they were part of our outreach from day one, and we worked to earn every vote. And we didn't write off our Republican brothers and sisters either. For 22 months, I've traveled all around this state. And the thing I learned is that we have so much in common. Because whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent, we all want the same thing, a better life for our kids, and to give our kids a better future. It's just that simple. And that's exactly why I'm here. I believe in the American dream. And I want everyone else to have the same opportunity to make it that I had. I'm here tonight because I believe women should also be able to make their own decisions about their own bodies. I'm here because costs are still too high. And I understand how hard it is to work just to bring home enough to pay the bills, to pay the rent, and maybe, just maybe, save up a little. I understand the dignity of work, of trying to put 40, 60, 80 hours together to try and make a life for your kids. But there are too many people in Washington, D.C. who don't understand that kind of hard work and who don't actually respect that work. They don't understand what it means to actually struggle every day and still believe that the next day is going to be better. Look, it looks like this race won't be called tonight, but one result is already coming through and clear. We fought for Arizona. And because of that, we are going to win. Even though our race isn't quite over yet, I still want to thank all Arizonans who supported me, Democrats, Republicans, and Independents. And to those who didn't, I want you to know that regardless of who you voted for today, I will stand up and fight for you. As hard as I fought to get out of poverty, as hard as I fight now for my family, as hard as I fought in the Marine Corps, I will be fighting for you in Washington, D.C. To my family, my mom, my sisters, my aunts, my cousins, and they're all here. We're a big Latino family. I will always have your back because you always had my back. And to Sydney, Michael, Isla, who always give me a reason to fight, I will keep fighting. To my Lima Company Marines, the men I patrolled with in Iraq, the men I went to the hardest days of war with and came back to a country that had forgotten us. John, Andy, and Cheston, who are here tonight, I love you, brothers. Semper Fi, and I'll always have your back. To my campaign team, to all the volunteers and our supporters, to the unions and the community groups who stood and fought alongside us the whole time, thank you. So for the veterans out there suffering from PTSD, for the single moms working 2 jobs and raising 3 kids, for the dads who have to miss that bedtime with their kids to work that overnight shift, and for the kid sleeping on the floor tonight in Arizona, dreaming of a better future, this is for you. Gracias, Arizona.
That's a good song. I do love that song, though. All right, you were just listening to Ruben Gallego, and he obviously feels like he's in a great spot right now. And as far as the results go, this is kind of what we were going to expect. According to all the polling, it had him ahead of Kari Lake by the margin that we have been seeing. We also just got an update, I believe, from North Carolina that Donald Trump is predicted to be the winner of that battleground state of North Carolina. That is 16 electoral college votes. He's looking good right now in Georgia as well, another battleground state. We do not know, though, yet about what's going to happen as far as Pennsylvania, the blue wall, Michigan, Wisconsin, don't know yet. Obviously, Arizona, Nevada, unknowns, but North Carolina and Georgia. North Carolina already called for Trump, and Georgia, unknown, but leaning right now towards Donald Trump. And I just looked at Twitter, X, whatever it's called right now, and Jen O'Malley Dillon, who is with the Harris campaign, sent out an email to the Harris campaign saying, get some sleep and get ready to close out strong tomorrow, is what she said. So if that's the case, then the party at Howard University is not going to be a party, right? No. It is a party without finality because we have no idea what's going to happen. And obviously votes are still being counted right now, just like they are in Arizona. And if the blue wall goes in either direction, then Arizona won't matter. I mean, as far as the presidential race goes, correct?
Correct. But I got this feeling in my stomach that as now that we see what Georgia's going on in Georgia, what's going on in North Carolina, that more and more focus, that bright light, I know it's dark here in Arizona, that bright light's going to be right on us again, because it's going to be, yes, with the way this is going right now, to get all 3 blue wall states is going to be a feat. Yeah, it is. So then the focus is going to come down south to the southwest.
Right.
So we just have to wait and see.
Right. And obviously with that first data drop that we have been talking about, it is neck and neck between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. And you guys were saying too, we just heard from Ruben Gallego, and Gallego has more votes than Trump. Adrian Fontes, I believe, is talking right now. Can we pull up that live one? If we can, he is
Republican, Democrat, Independent. We're all in this together, and they don't want us to be, because our foreign adversaries know they cannot beat us militarily, they cannot beat us economically. The only way they can beat us is if we're beating each other up, and we got to stop doing that.
How do you feel about this party right now?
Well, I'm having a good time at the party, right? I'm a Democrat. I love my Democrats. When I do my job, I'm doing it for all Arizona's voters, and it's important to be able to have your opinion and have a good time with it, and have your duty and exercise those duties appropriately.
As far as the Democratic Party as a whole right now in this state, where does it stand, do you think?
Well, putting on the political hat for a second, look, we've got a governor, a secretary, an attorney general. We're about to get a U.S. senator. I think as a prognostication, if I could be so bold, let's see what happens in the House and the Senate. But Arizona's been moving in this direction for a long, long time. You know, John McCain used to, may you rest in peace, he used to win by 25 points. Those margins got narrower and narrower. We've moved our way into being a battleground state. And that's just the changing way that Arizona's moving, and that's okay. A little change never hurts once in a while.
All right, so that was Secretary of State Adrian Fontes, and he just kind of talked about what we were talking about, guys, the fact that you have the top election officials right now in Arizona, the Democrats, and then we could potentially have the legislature flip, which would be something, again, that we have not seen since the 60s.
Yeah, right. We have not in 50 plus years. It's going to come down to, in the very short order, what is the day of voter like?
Yes.
And that's the thing. Right now, Democrats are having a moment.
Right.
And that may carry. But there's a certain conventional wisdom that it's Republicans that outnumber Democrats on election day.
Right.
And if that's the case, some of this might come back to the Republicans.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but the voter behavior has been turned on its head, as we discussed earlier in the last hour. You know, it's always been the Republicans have knocked it out of the park with early voting. Remember, Arizona was the leader in early voting. We started it when
I
Stan
supported it. Yes,
when Stan was
1991,
in the state
1992.
legislature,
Yes,
when he had hair and was a young man.
Thank you.
But that's why he wears a hat. And he has a haircut like me.
Stop it.
I know. My kids, my daughter, she makes fun of me all the time. But anyway, the Republicans have done a great job of motivating and getting those early voters out, but that got turned on its head in 2020 and in 2022 when the Republican Party and Donald Trump himself said, show up at the vote on election day. So we're kind of in a flux on behavior, and Stan's right. We don't know who these nearly 270,000 voters just in Maricopa County that voted today.
Yeah. And again, we do have the 400,000, 500,000 ballot drops that happened today.
Yes.
A mail-in ballot. Someone had a mail-in ballot. They dropped it off today. And by law, as long as you drop it off by 7 o'clock tonight, it's going to count. It's just going to take a while to verify that signature and get it going.
So if this presidential race, if the blue wall doesn't hold for Kamala Harris or drops off one of these, it's the focus is in the bright light in all the countries, the world's focus in part could be on Arizona because of these huge amount of late earlies that now all those envelopes have to be open.
Yep.
The signatures have to be verified. That's going to take probably 10 days.
Right. It is.
10?
Yeah.
I hope you're wrong, but I think you're right, regrettably. Because not only does the signature have to be validated, but if there's any doubt about the signature, then it has to be cured.
Correct.
And that curing
5 days.
is 5 days.
Yeah.
Five. It's which is new. It used to be 5 business days. Now it's 5 calendar days.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It's
the
a little
legislature
shorter
changed.
then.
A little shorter then.
So, but still,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that adds time onto the clock.
Right.
And to Doug's point, the whole nation might be going, what is Arizona's result? And we may not know for another week. Right.
There was a card that I had made, and there was some headline, that it was like basically, this one Arizona county, could come down to that. We may not know who won on election day, and this Arizona county could be why. That's exactly what this headline was that I found. And we have over 9,000 miles in Maricopa County. We are larger than 4 states, 4.5 million people basically eligible to vote. Very diverse, 60% white, 30% Hispanic, 6% black, evenly divided politically. And the rural areas are very rural, and the cities are just kind of purple, and just kind of depends on the issue and the candidate. Do you feel like that people really do it's about the quality of the candidate when you get to a general election? I don't know.
Yeah. That, in my opinion, that's always the number one.
The candidate.
Yes,
the
candidate
dominant
quality.
thing is the quality of the
candidate. Exactly.
And that's, I mean, that's hard to overcome a really good person
Yeah.
who's likable, articulate, easygoing, authentic.
And
Who
that's
gives
not always the
gives you a
case
good feeling.
in other states. Sometimes you can get some buffoons that just keep getting elected, and they just do, right? I mean,
right.
but
Yeah.
I feel like because we have so many independents that people are doing their homework.
We have independents, and we also have, and Arizona again was a leader in this. We started back in 1998 actually. The voters passed the Independent Redistricting Commission, and so now that goes our redistricting, which used to be handled by the legislature back like when Stan was in the legislature in the 90s. It's now handled by an independent 5-member commission, which has made a lot of these districts more competitive. So it's been a long process, and the districts we talked about earlier are the ones that are front and center, as we see now, the 2, 4, 13, 16, 17, and 23.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the theme so far that I'm getting tonight, is that the legislature is so far a Democratic win, and they're having a good night.
Right.
So far.
So far, and we know that it can always change.
Exactly, but still, I mean, they're to the fact that we're talking about a potential 16-member Democratic Senate is pretty powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, haven't spoken those words in a very long time.
Yeah, no doubt. I want to go through real quick some of the results that we have, just because if people are joining us, and we thank you. We are streaming right now, Fox 10 Phoenix YouTube channel. We're also on 45 or cable channel 9. And let's go through the results, the presidential race, and then we'll just go real quick. We'll start from the top and then go on down. Again, the first batch, about 1.2 million votes right now. This is neck and neck. The U.S. Senate race, we just heard from Ruben Gallego, and Ruben Gallego is in a comfortable lead, as to be expected, over Kari Lake. Let's go through the congressional districts right now, starting with 1. This is a tight one. Dr. Amish Shah, former state lawmaker, over David Schweikert as of right now. This is going to be a very close one, so one to watch. And Cook Political had it as a toss-up, so it could be a toss-up. Potentially, David Schweikert could lose his seat as an incumbent. We don't know. Eli Crane, District 2, the incumbent there. Jonathan Nez, the former leader of the Navajo Nation. A little bit tighter maybe than some think, but let's go to District 3 right now. Yasemin Ansari, she's already been declared the winner. She's really the only person who's been declared a winner tonight so far in Arizona politics, but that's to be expected. This is the old seat that Ruben Gallego left to run for the U.S. Senate. Greg Stanton, District 4. The incumbent there, popular former mayor, and defeating Kelly Cooper as of right now. We'll see how this plays out, but this was a rematch of 2022. Andy Biggs, the incumbent there, District 5, leading Katrina Schaffner, 57 to 43%. District 6, for the U.S. House of Representatives, Cook Political also labeled this as a possible toss-up. Kirsten Engel, 54%, to Juan Ciscomani, the incumbent there, 54 to 44%. We'll need to watch this one. Rahul Grijalva, and he's been a long-term incumbent. This will be his final run. He has been declared the winner officially. There we go. We got a red check mark. We got 2 tonight, folks. 67% to 33%. But that house, there will be a seat that opens up, District 7, in a 2-year period. So something to watch. District 8. So this will be Abe Hamadeh, and he is leading right now 53% to 47%. But both Doug and Stan have said that Abe should be leading by a lot more, especially in this very Republican-friendly district.
He should be close to 60.
He should.
In my estimation.
He should be like kind of like Gosar and Smith,
and
right
Smith here.
Okay, so Paul Gosar leading Quasi Smith. Declared a winner right there. The incumbent. We got 3. We got 3, folks. District 9. Okay, so now let's go through some of the Maricopa County contests, if we can, that we have. Jerry Sheridan, and he was Joe Arpaio's second man in charge. Tyler Camp, the Phoenix Police former lieutenant. Jerry Sheridan leading right now. Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell, or County Recorder, let's go to that one. Tim Stringham leading Justin Heap, and the Democrat is leading right now. This is a very close race, though. It's going to be expected anyway. Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell, the incumbent, 53% to Tamika Wooten's 47%. The propositions, let's go through those really quickly to kind of give you an idea of what's playing out there. The abortion one, Prop 139, and that is, I mean, handily people voting for that. Yes, every poll had it basically
60s,
was
yeah,
right
right.
on par with
Yeah.
what we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
People are in favor of enshrining abortion rights into our state constitution, and it would allow an abortion up to fetal viability, make it, you know, a decision between a woman and her doctor, and that would be in our state constitution. Another proposition 314, and basically same thing, but a different thing that we're talking about, and this would allow local law enforcement, state law enforcement to enforce federal law at the border, would allow state law enforcement to arrest someone who is crossing the border illegally, not at a port of entry, and also passing by a significant margin.
Yeah, but to that point, you make a good point, Ellen, and you're from Texas. A similar, almost the exact same law was passed by the Texas legislature. It's called Senate Bill 4.
Yep.
And in that this Prop 314 has 3 different components to it. And you're talking about the law enforcement, the direct law enforcement component to it. And that is modeled after Senate Bill 4 in Texas. This proposition says that portion does not come into an effect unless Senate Bill 4 is declared constitutional by the U.S. courts.
Okay.
So we'll have to see if that happens, because right now Senate Bill 4 in Texas is on hold.
Okay.
So that has a long way to go to litigation, and there's 2 other parts to this. There's increased penalties for fentanyl,
Right.
and then there is if you don't follow the E-Verify for employment for U.S. citizenship, it increases the penalties if you don't do that. Polling always showed this thing was in the 60s, just like Prop 139.
Wow. And all the other props are
seem to be going down.
failing. Right?
Yeah, but what's interesting, I want to give a shout out to my fellow Arizona voters. Okay, everything that's a 100 series is a constitutional amendment. So if it has a 1 in the front of it, that's a constitutional amendment. Every single constitutional amendment that the Arizona legislature referred to the ballot went down. Okay, they're down. So the only constitutional amendment that has passed is Prop 139.
Okay.
Conversely, the statutory amendments, those are ones that can be more easily changed by the legislature if it furthers the almost all of them passed except one. So the voters were very discerning. Hats off.
And that's kind of the history, I would say, about Arizona voters is they understand the difference between a constitution and a statutory.
Yeah.
Right.
Like to put it in the constitution is a serious matter.
It is.
Yeah.
And so I mean, if you bake it there, it's going to be there.
Right.
And I'm with you that they had that discernment. I think that's a very interesting thing.
Yeah.
Greg Stanton is talking right now to the crowd, Live 7. If we can bring that on up, let's listen in.
A lot of people to thank, but let me start with the best partner I could ever ask for, my wife, Nicole. Nicole, that's 9 races together. She's overcome a lot of obstacles over the last 2 years and continues to be the toughest person that I know. Our kids, my son Trevor, our daughter Violet, they make so many sacrifices of their own because their dad serves in Congress. I love you so very much. Thank you to my campaign manager, Cameron Adams. Where's Cameron? The best campaign manager in the business. And also a huge thank you to the Stanton campaign and official staff. Team Stanton is down there. I see y'all. You are the very best. To the people who contributed to this effort, and to the hundreds of hardworking volunteers who made phone calls, knocked on doors, thank you for believing in me. Thank you for believing in Ruben Gallego, who won a Senate race here tonight in Arizona, in Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, in all of our outstanding candidates that share our values and what we can do together. I am forever grateful to you. Across the country, We're still waiting to see many results. But regardless of what happens, I can tell you I will do what I have always done. Whether you voted for me or my opponent, my door will always be open. I will continue to reach across the aisle to listen as we chart a new path forward as a state and as a nation. To make real progress, to rebuild our economy and to prepare Arizona for the future, we need more elected leaders that do more than just bicker on Twitter. We have to do the real work to build on the CHIPS Act so that Arizona is the semiconductor capital of the entire United States of America, to lift up our kids and our schools, to keep lowering healthcare costs, to secure our water so that future generations can call Arizona home. And we must do more to instill trust. Arizonans don't expect Washington to solve all of their problems, but they do expect Washington to work for them, not for lobbyists or special interests. We have a lot of work ahead of us, and I know that together we are up to this challenge. So I'm grateful to each and every one of you for putting your trust in me, and thank you for this wonderful victory tonight. Thank you, Arizona Democrats.
All right, you've just been listening to Greg Stanton, Congressman Greg Stanton, the incumbent there, doing very well in District 4. We do expect that he will win that, but it has not been called yet. Kelly Cooper challenging him again, and this was a rematch from 2022. We were saying that, Kelly Cooper, I saw more ads for Kelly Cooper in 2022 rather than this go around. But I mean, Greg Stanton is, a popular former mayor and the incumbent here. So, I mean, you expect him to do very well.
And that district has really changed even since he's held that seat. It's gone from, Ahwatukee used to be a very, and West Chandler used to be a very reliable Republican stronghold. John McCain, when he was in Congress, represented. Jay Rhodes represented that district. That's always been a Republican district, but that has evolved now into a purple, almost blue district now.
Yeah, true enough. I happen to live on the very east side of it, much to the chagrin of Congressman Stanton that I live on the east side of it. But no, I can attest that it is a perfectly balanced district, and incumbency matters.
Yes.
Name ID matters. Raising money matters. You just had a big public transportation system named after him in Phoenix.
Right.
And so he's just kind of got that understanding by voters of who he is, and Cooper couldn't break through that.
Yeah, and he's also has very good constituent services, and that matters when you're a member of the U.S. House, because remember, they have to be they're in front of the voters every 2 years, and so you've got to be out there. And he's non-controversial. He's doing transportation projects right and left, and that's a big deal here in the Valley.
Yeah. Nicole Christine, she is at the Tabulation Center. I just wanted to check in. Let's listen in real quick if we can. She's given an update.
Nearly 269,000 people showing up to cast their ballots before polls closed at 7, and then some 9,200 voters able to wait in line after 7 to vote, since they were in line when the polls did close at 7. Now, those printer woes of the general election in 2022, not a problem today thanks to a $9 million investment in new printers in Maricopa County. Most of the issues in the state being reported up north in Navajo Nation, where 9 voting locations were open until 9 due to tech issues. The biggest issue now for most voters here in Arizona, trying to stay patient as results trickle in. County leaders say that patience allows them to count ballots efficiently but accurately.
Okay, so we just got an update from Nicole Christine at the Tabulation Center. You said 269,000 people in Maricopa County alone.
Yeah, exactly. And 17,000 of those are provisional ballots.
Okay.
And again, that's going to slow everything down too, because those all have to go through a whole nother process.
Yeah. We do have a live shot at Howard University, and I think that is Edge 1. I just wanted to take a peek there because people are not looking too happy right now. And it's because there is not a party. This 2016, right? I don't know if you guys remember or not, but at Hillary Clinton's watch party, it was at the Javits Center, and everyone was expecting that Hillary was going to be winning, right? And she didn't, and everyone went home. I think people felt like this might be a party kind of like that, potentially. No one really knew, right? I don't think anyone knew.
Right,
I think,
no one knew.
I think more 2016, more people, the polls all showed that Hillary was going to win, and that all of a sudden Donald Trump won, and it was just this shock, right? I mean, people didn't expect it to happen. But you can see that there's not a lot of joy right now on people's faces here at Howard, and that frankly is because these battlegrounds like North Carolina and Georgia have not gone her way, and they have gone Donald Trump's way so far. We are still waiting on the blue wall, Pennsylvania. We are still waiting on Michigan and Wisconsin. And you just saw a shot from the watch party in West Palm. That's in Florida, so near Mar-a-Lago, but at a convention center. So you can see that the watch party is happening there. A lot of red Make America Great hats in the crowd. People are feeling probably a lot better there than they are at Howard in DC, because they have some battlegrounds they can already claim and you know, say that they're looking good right now. But as we've been talking about, guys, this we don't know how the battlegrounds are going to go, the blue wall, but there will be a lot of focus again on Arizona and also Nevada too. And Nevada is supposed to be extremely tight too.
Yeah, psychologically, as we just saw the map of the United States with both Carolinas now in the red column.
Yep.
Having the first battleground state called for you, that makes your crowd happy.
Correct.
And it makes the other crowd kind of sad.
Right.
And because they're like, whoa, you know, it's always good to be first, be the first one out.
Because then you have to figure out the puzzle piece, right?
Correct.
Because, okay, there's going to be more puzzle pieces for the Trump campaign right now than the vice president's campaign, because they're going to have to do some other, they're going to have another puzzle piece they got to figure out. Virginia for Harris?
Virginia, yeah, that was expected, Virginia for Harris. But the reason I don't think you see the peach state there, Georgia, as one either red or blue, is because they're still waiting for those voter-rich, heavy Democratic counties around Atlanta.
Okay.
Around, in Fulton County, Atlanta has many counties, the greater Atlanta area.
Yeah.
It's not just Fulton County. So those I don't think have come in. They're waiting for those, which would be very important to Vice President Harris. Some of the earlier numbers I saw, like an hour ago, they were comparing Trump's turnout in the red areas of Georgia. He was underperforming, but just by a couple of points. So we'll have to see how that plays out, because it's winner take all in Georgia, just like it is in Arizona. So
right.
It's all about the blue wall right now.
It is. There's a lot of focus on the blue wall, and this was something I just read too, that Harris was underperforming a little bit in Minnesota compared to Biden. And it's interesting because Tim Walz is from Minnesota, and he's the governor there, right? Now, she's going to win Minnesota, but that does raise a question, like, okay, if she's kind of underperforming there a little bit, what's going on?
Well, let me jump in on that one.
Please do.
He's the governor of Minnesota, and has been the governor for a number of years.
This is his second term.
His second term. And so when you're governor and you're making decisions, you make enemies.
Yeah.
And you're going to have, you have a record out there, and you're on TV, and he was governor during COVID. And so, that could be votes against him, because some Minnesotans just don't like him.
It's personal.
It's personal.
Yeah.
It's personal.
And Minnesota too, you talk about a fascinating state. You have very left-leaning Minneapolis, St. Paul, and then you have really rural areas, communities that kind of like our state too, that were not too happy probably with Governor Walz during COVID.
That's correct. They would rather be out in one of those 10,000 lakes, ice fishing, and in their little cabins, and their little cabins, and not being told by Governor Walz what to do. So so that could be a vote against him.
Right.
That'd be my analysis.
Yeah. Well, it is. That's the other thing too. When you look at some of these parties, you want to have a party, right, on election night, but at the same time, it's hard to have these things now because they're not necessarily decided on the actual night of.
Correct.
I mean, it wasn't, and 2016 was the last time recently.
Right. It is the end of the campaign, though. So there is a thank you moment. There is a celebration, like we've gone through the tape. Now it's out of our hands.
Yeah.
You got to have a party. Although, I mean, for the first time in our political lifetime, the Republican Party in Arizona did not have a gathering on election day.
Because they spent all the money for the one in 2022 that wasn't very successful.
Right. That's true.
So,
they still have the balloons.
Right. They still have them.
I said I was at that watch party 2022, and those balloons are still they're still hanging in the ceiling somewhere. They didn't come down.
They've shrunk a little, but still.
But they were expensive balloons
Yes.
too, if I remember that price tag.
Oh yeah.
I am seeing Colin Allred edge 4. So he was challenging Ted Cruz. I don't know if we can go to that or not. Let's listen in just for a moment, real quick.
My 2 kids and my wife Allie. My boys are little. They're 3 and 5. I haven't seen them as much as I'd like to, and as for someone who grew up not knowing their father, that's a big deal to me. So I want to say a special thank you to my family, to my mother and father-in-law who have done so much child care, to the folks who mean the most to me. I ran for my boys, and I'm going to keep fighting for my boys' future, and for every Texas kid's future. And I hope y'all will too. There's a quote from Churchill that's been kicking around in my head that I'll probably mess up. But it said that courage is rightly esteemed as the first of human qualities, because as has been said, it's the quality that guarantees all others. You have to have courage. It took courage, and I'm not tooting my own horn here, but it took courage for me to come.
All right, you were just listening to Colin Allred, Congressman of Texas, taking on Ted Cruz. He did not beat Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz holds on to his seat in the state of Texas, and Democrats were hoping that maybe Colin could win. That did not happen. Let's go to Mark Martinez now at the big board. Mark, we just had some live shots at Howard University and then also in Florida. The folks at Howard were looking a little down right now. What's going on right now in the presidential race?
Well, yeah, as we look at where things stand with the Electoral College right now, we've got Donald Trump at 232, just got North Carolina. That was officially called by Fox. So he gets North Carolina. That got him to 132. Kamala Harris at 211 right now. So that's where things stand at this point. Now, actually, she just went up. So what did we get here? Kamala Harris just got a state. So we'll have to look into exactly what she got. Sorry about that. I was looking away when it happened.
It's all right. It's all right.
But so this shows you things are changing in real time.
Yeah.
So Kamala Harris just went up, and I don't know if she got New Mexico. I think maybe that's what Virginia. Okay. Kamala Harris has just gotten Virginia, so she gets their electoral votes. We're still waiting to hear back from most of the battleground states, as you can see. They are not reporting as quickly as maybe some people would have liked, but again, very close race. We knew this was going to be a margin of error race, and it turns out that's what it's going to be, at least in these battleground states, swing states as they're also called. That is probably why people are, you saw the faces, I was watching too, Ellen. I think it's just that sort of like, maybe that sense of, what's going to happen? Is it going to go their way? And there's really not much to celebrate until for those who want Kamala Harris to win, until we start seeing some of these battleground states reporting in. And that is really what's going to be the key. We're talking about a lot of electoral votes that are at hand when you start talking about taking these battleground states into one of your camps. And that's where we are right now.
Wall, I don't know, because we're just kind of out here right now. But have you heard potentially when some more results could be coming in for some of these blue wall states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin?
No. Unfortunately, I'm kind of like you, Ellen. I'm in this, John Hook is calling it the war room right now. So we're kind of sequestered away, kind of like you guys are too. So we're not really getting a lot of information from some of the folks who are on the ground in these states, some of the correspondents for Fox who are out there right now, for example. So it does feel like a long waiting game. I remember covering presidential elections many years ago, when by now we'd already be on our way home. You know, we would have known, and just not the way that it works anymore. I don't know if it's ever going to work that way again. Maybe it will, but right now, it's just sort of an agonizing wait for both. You know, for people, supporters of both Trump and Kamala Harris.
Yeah. All right, Mark, thank you. I wanted to go to Tim Stringham, who is the candidate right now for the county recorder in Maricopa County. He's talking. Let's listen in live 3 if we can get that.
Learn their story and find out what they're good at and bad at, and their concerns and their hopes, and we'll go from there.
It just jumped into my head. Can I ask you, like, do you feel any sympathy for what Stephen Richer went through? His own party kicked him out because he's kind of saying what you're saying. The election was fine.
Look, it takes a lot of courage to stand up to your enemies and even more courage to stand up for your friends. I think we all need to remember that, and I hope I've got that encouraged when it takes time to stand up to the Democrats.
Good, man. Did I forget anything?
I don't know. Did you forget anything?
No, I don't know.
I think we're good. Go,
Great job.
Yeah.
Very good.
How'd I do?
Good luck, man.
All right, that was Tim Stringham, and right now he is a very, very small lead over Justin Heap. He was talking to our Brian Webb at the Democratic Watch Party, and the Democrats right now are having a pretty good night, especially at the state legislature. Tim Stringham, though, is an attorney, and he's JAG. Justin Heap, former state lawmaker, and we've said he, kind of an election denier candidate, but he beat the current recorder, Stephen Richer. And as we've kind of been talking about, I mean, Stephen Richer has been fabulous, guys, about giving us all these updates about what's going on right now with the election, the numbers. And I mean, hats off to Stephen Richer, because I don't think the guy sleeps for like a month. I don't know. Literally does not sleep at all.
Yeah, no, I think Stephen's done a great job, especially says maybe he's taken advantage since he, only has a job for a few more months, and his watch will have ended at that point. But he's been a great job as a recorder. Just the issue is that due to the populist rise on the Republican side, it's just he got targeted and taken out. But it's interesting. The Republicans are doing pretty well in general with the county supervisor races, except for in this race.
Right. Yeah, in this race. Yeah. Go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, but he could have just withdrawn himself and quietly.
Stephen, you mean?
Stephen Richer, and performed the duties of his job. But this guy has been everywhere. I mean, he's been on 60 Minutes. He's on every national cable show, and he really wants to go out on a high note, and running ahead, held high on and run a well-run election here in Maricopa County.
Yeah, and doing a great job right now, giving us all these updates with the numbers coming in. I was just reading, so Jackie Heinrich, she's a Fox News correspondent. She is reporting that 3 sources close to Harris are expressing concern that her path to victory may be too narrow to overcome. So this is something we're going to be watching. But again, the campaign said tomorrow, we're going to have an update tomorrow, what's going on with the presidential race. Right now, Trump leading 232 to her 212. And we still have the blue wall, we still have Georgia, and we have, of course, our state, our lovely Grand Canyon state, and then Nevada as well. And Nevada, Mike, I know you polled Nevada, and what have you found leading up to the election with Nevada, according to the top of the ticket?
Well, it's interesting. Nevada's very similar to Arizona, but just kind of like the upside down world of us, where they're very much a battleground, but they have more Democrats than Republicans. And so in their big populous county, which is Clark County, where Las Vegas is, Democrats basically have to perform well there, where then the Republicans will do well in their rural counties. And so you're seeing that, I think turnout's kind of thing is that the rurals were very much maxed out. So when looking at ballot returns, that they were past 80% of ballots returned. So they really maxed out and actually were overperforming where they were last time. And that's also the overall trend we're kind of seeing right now in the election. So the question is, in Clark County, will they be able to get enough turnout? But the current election prognosticator there, which is like the Ann Seltzer of Nevada, which is John Ralston.
Right.
He's accurately predicted that, but she's not a pollster, by the way. He just knows Nevada politics. He just really knows his stuff. And so basically he has shown that he said Harris would win by 0.2%.
Right. So small. And they also had abortion on the ballot as
Yeah, which
well.
is passing, right now, which we had a passing like around 60%, which is currently at. And they're a little more socially liberal than Arizona, but just in general, the trend. Yeah.
Las Vegas.
Yeah. Well, they're very pocketbook focused, which is interesting there.
That's
why Trump's making it very competitive, even though it's like a Dem-leaning state. They have better machinery there than the Republicans do. And I just think it's interesting that the pocketbook, where Trump voters do trust him more on that issue than Harris. And that's where, that's why it's so close over there. But that's Ralston. I was just on a panel with him a week ago, and he said it might be 11 days until they know all the results. So we'll see.
Yeah. Again, another swing state. I mean, it takes time to count the ballots, no doubt. What are you watching right now? I know you have a lot of things pulled up. Secretary of State's website pulled up.
Yeah, we haven't talked about the Corporation Commission,
right?
The fourth branch of government in Arizona.
but it's
so powerful.
It's so powerful.
They touch everybody's lives. They don't know it.
People don't realize that sometimes.
Yeah. So that they set, if you're an APS customer or you're a Unisource TEP customer, they set your power rates. Okay, they have jurisdiction over where power lines go. They have jurisdiction over the railroads. They have jurisdiction over licensed, registering businesses and such.
Yeah, absolutely.
In their corporations division. So, it touches everybody's lives in Arizona, and no one knows what they do or who they are.
Right.
But what we're seeing here is some typical, results in Arizona where we see some differentiation at the top of the ticket, but as voters head down, they come home. So there's three open seats. All three Republicans are leading right now.
And Doug makes a really great observation. That's how you know he's one of the best in the state when it comes to politics. And so it's interesting is that as you go down ticket, is that voters will vote more generically, so the less they know about these offices, because admittedly, lack of a better term, a corporation commission is just not a sexy office to talk about, talk about power lines and things like that. And so what happens when they get down there, they just kind of vote more partisan, so they're kind of at the whims of the political swings that happen. And so like right now with the, Republicans have a bit of a turnout edge over Democrats right now. And so you're seeing that as you go farther down ticket, it has an impact where a lot of these more down ticket candidates are really held hostage on how the national ebbs and flows go on these elections, which is fascinating.
Yeah. Well, they approved an APS rate hike. I remember that. That was not too long ago. That didn't make a lot of people very happy. But at the same time, if you have if you have candidates who support a utility rate hike and you get them in office, then that can happen.
It's a pocketbook issue.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, as my pollster here sitting next to me people vote their pocketbook in many cases.
And it's usually the dominant ones, and that's usually you have pocketbook and then social issues. But you see, like for example, when COVID made landfall, I mean, obviously when you have a 100-year pandemic at the time, people shifted, but also when the economy was shutting down, I mean, people were really afraid economically. And it's like you saw immigration, which was a top issue in Arizona for many years, drop to not even a top 3 issue. So social issues kind of will take the back seat when people start getting hit in the pocketbooks, which it's funny if you look at Arizona too right now in the last 4 years, if you were to take average inflation, like a 2% rate, and the actual inflation that Arizonans and Phoenix have experienced the last 4 years, they're paying an extra $1,008 more a month. And then add in that housing costs have gone up 50% in price, plus the cost to borrow is higher. So you add those together, and why do people move to the Southwest? Low cost of living and the fantastic weather. And so when you notice those things coupled in there, like Arizonans very much and Nevadans were very hammered in the pocketbook.
Okay. Do we have Brett Baer? Is he doing? Okay, we do have Brett Baer on Twitter. Is that right? Okay, so Brett Baer just put this up on Twitter. The decision desk can project that Republicans will take control of the Senate. The party will hold at least 51 seats, enough for an outright majority. The tipping point seat is Nebraska, where Fox News projects that Republican incumbent Senator Deb Fischer will defeat independent challenger Dan Osborne. That was a race to watch. Because many believed that the independent potentially could actually beat Deb. It's not clear yet who will serve as the next Senate Majority Leader. We have been told, Mitch McConnell, longest serving Senate leader in history, said that he's going to step down. That was expected. We are told that the House is expected to flip So we would have a split government potentially.
Yeah, it's
right.
Yeah, here we have a potential Arizona go to unified government potentially. Again, it's early. It's early, and we find on the national side of things that if the trending goes for former President Trump, he would be in the White House. We would have a Republican Senate, which would be good for him getting his nominees passed.
I was going to say, if you have two guys on the Supreme Court, you have Alito and Thomas that retire.
Right.
Then, I mean, no one would stand in his way if he's elected and he could get two more on the Supreme Court. That would be five. That he would put on the U.S. Supreme Court.
And it's not just this. Yes, and it's not just the Supreme Court. It's also the Court of Appeals. It's also the other federal judges around the country, and its ambassadors. And his cabinet secretaries. So all those need Senate confirmation. So it always goes a lot better if the Senate is of your party.
Right.
But it looks like he's going to have a big check, and that's going to be the U.S. House of Representatives.
Right. Yes, correct. And that's where the Republicans in the last few cycles have
That's if he wins, of course.
Correct.
Yes,
But the last few cycles, Republicans have been not performing as well in these congressional districts. I think a lot of it is this, because of the current reorganization in the party, it's just the type of candidates running, and especially in these battleground districts, you really have to have the right type of candidates. For example, like in Arizona, the Martha McSallies of the world, or Juan Ciscomani type. Like, you really need a very specific type of candidate to really win in those very competitive races.
Yeah.
But they're not getting as good of candidates. And the other big point, too, is that Democrats have really been having a big money advantage over Republicans in Senate and Congress. Like, look at Schweikert and Ciscomani, both of them incumbent Republicans. They both were outspent in their races. Look at Senate and Carrie Lake, just an outside spending alone was outspent by $22 million. But if you look at a lot of, especially top 10 Senate races, Democrats just have a huge strategic advantage in resources.
Yeah. This is a question. So Carrie Lake is losing, and we've expected that she probably will.
Yes.
If Trump wins,
he's got to win by a lot to carry over the finish line.
What happened? No, but what happens with Carrie Lake's political career if she loses but Trump wins? Is she going to be like the press secretary for Trump?
Well,
is that the next
possible.
step? I mean, I don't know, right?
Well, we do have a tradition of having an Arizonan as his press secretary with Stephanie Grisham
we do.
in the first term. So
that's true.
So
but Stephanie didn't hold one press briefing, right?
No,
that was
she does have that record.
Fame.
She does have the only press secretary that never had a
press
briefing.
conference. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, so
wow. Okay. Again, we're just this is hypothetical stuff. So we're just kind of getting in the weeds here. We're looking here again that Ruben Gallego up 52% to 46%. Carrie Lake did not have a party tonight. So we wanted to send a reporter out to that party. There was no party to be had, so we couldn't do that. But Ruben Gallego, we did hear from him a little bit earlier tonight and said that they're still counting votes right now, but he said that he felt confident at the end of it that he would be declared the winner and the first U.S. senator, Latino senator from the state of Arizona. So again, something we're going to continue to follow. We also talked about Eduardo. We didn't know who Eduardo was, but he got 31,000 votes so far and is still counting.
Well, can I make just a general observation here? For years and years and years, we had two Republican senators that had a lot of seniority. Most recently, John McCain, the chair of the Armed Services Committee. Long history. We had John Kyle, who was the Senate Majority Whip.
Right.
We had lots and lots of power with two Republican senators. Now we're now getting a history of having two Democrat or non-Republican senators. With Kirsten Sinema, she was elected as a Democrat, but is leaving as independent. So things are changing in Arizona. And the other thing that we also need to recognize is both of our senators, while Ruben has a very storied congressional career in the House, and Mark Kelly's making a name for himself in the Senate, they are very low on seniority.
Yeah.
And Congress runs on seniority.
We're used
to having the Dennis DeConcinis, the Carl Haydens, the Barry Goldwaters, the Ernest McFarlands, the John McCains, the Mo Udalls, the John Rhodeses of the world. we're used to having these titans that Arizona always punched above its weight in Congress ever since we became a state in 1912. That's why we have the Central Arizona Project. That's why we have all these military installations. That just doesn't happen. It happens when people are in Congress that have power.
Right.
And we have a pretty, save Raul Grijalva, and Greg Stanton's, getting some seniority. We have a pretty junior congressional delegation in Arizona, and that's different.
Right.
That's different for our state.
Right. And if you have that senior delegate, you're able to put money more in your district, to your state.
You can get a lot of stuff done.
A lot of stuff done.
Better for Arizonans.
Yep.
There was talk about the CHIPS Act, right? And how much it has done for Arizona.
Oh, yeah.
There was talk that, I don't know, that this might go away potentially if I don't know how you can make it go away if Trump were to get elected. But there was some kind of discussion about that, and just that, we have this TSMC. I mean, that's huge.
And Intel.
It's huge for our economy. There's no way that you could. That would be crushing to our economy if we lost that.
Yeah, I'd find that. I think chips, I don't think probably be on the table. Like, for example, I was just in DC 2-3 weeks ago with fly-in to a briefing with the White House, and it was interesting in there. They even talked about TSMC. Like, they brought it up of, not only it's the most talked about company in Arizona, but it's one of the most sought after nationally. I mean, it's a huge thing, but also Trump has been very clear about trying to bring things back to be manufactured here, to kind of build out that industrial base, especially with the threat on Taiwan, et cetera, which is the only place that can actually make those semiconductors right now. And so when you look at that strategically, et cetera, I don't see why the CHIPS Act, to go against it, would be against his current platform. So it would just be hard pressed to see him going against that, frankly.
Yeah, because he says he wants to have American manufacturing. He doesn't say the companies have to be owned by Americans. He just said, because that's a Taiwanese company, right?
Yeah.
But Arizona is going to be a battleground state for a long time to come. I don't see that changing. I would throw that to you, but I just don't see that changing.
Nope.
So if he wants to say the House does go, the U.S. House of Representatives goes Democrat, and the majority, if I was president, if Trump wins, this will be his last term because that's constitutional. I would be working every day of my first 2 years in office to flip the House of Representatives. So I would have free governance and do these things. So that would be a losing strategy in Arizona to kill those jobs at Intel and at TSMC.
Right.
Yeah, no, the jobs thing, and just again for the security issue. I mean, just especially the chips too. Like, businesses needs those chips, and if things get hot over there in the South China Sea, I mean, a lot of things that we have right now are going to be in short supply or no supply.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Let's go through some of the races real quick. It is just 10:10 right now. We are going till 11 o'clock tonight. Commercial free. We thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate it. We are on the Fox 10 Phoenix YouTube channel. We're also on 45 and cable channel 9, commercial free once again. Let's go through the races right now. And we were expecting maybe another data drop at 10:30 p.m. potentially.
In Maricopa County.
In Maricopa County. Yeah. So we're hoping that maybe at 10:30 we'll get a little bit of a bump with some of the updated numbers. Do you know, Doug, how much maybe we might see?
So remember the dumps that are going to come from now on for the rest of the evening are going to be day of voters. So these are the voters that in here in Maricopa County, the 270,000 that presented themselves
today,
waited in line, especially if you're around Mesa Community College or around ASU, they waited in long lines, and that 270,000 voted. And so what's happening right now out in the precincts is the memory cards are being taken out of the tabulation machines.
Yep.
They're put into a secure pouch. And then the other thing that's new this election, so before they can send those memory cards down the street here to McTech, where the big tabulators are, they have to hand count all those green envelopes that folks dropped off at the polls today. They don't open the ballot, the envelopes. They just have to count them before any of those chips can come down to McTech to go up in the main tabulation. So that's what's taking so long, because usually we'll have a day of by now, but it's probably, you know, it's 10:15. We haven't had an update that I know of.
Right.
So the first updates will be, more than likely, will be from the voting centers that are here in the central city, which will be more Democrat, more blue.
Yep.
So we're going to see on a percentage, there won't be a lot of votes, but on a percentage basis, we're going to see them really be heavy on the blue side.
Correct. And I think what's interesting, you're right, because geographic density, urban cores are most Democratic, suburban, a bit more split, and your rurals are more Republican. But I thought it was interesting about the numbers for president here is that Harris currently has a lead in Maricopa County, which is interesting because Republicans have been hammering the early vote hard. And typically, if you're a Republican in Arizona, if you don't win Maricopa County, or you're kind of screwed, like a better term,
absolutely.
right? But also
That's the technical term.
You're screwed, yeah.
Yeah, it's true, but it's true. Yeah.
Well, but it's crazy that, you know, talking earlier about the trend of like, hey, we're kind of seeing that Trump is outperforming, kind of maxing out his rurals, or doing better in his rural vote. But I think that kind of points to that factor of that, you know, how can you still have an edge in the presidential, like overall, because he's winning, he's ahead overall in the state, but yet down by a few points in Maricopa County right now, which is interesting. So I don't know. I just think it's interesting, this new dynamics, the way politics have been played for a while now. It's completely
right. Look at that. Look at that.
Yeah. So again, look at that. I mean, but you say if you're saying, oh, I'm down 2.5 points in Maricopa County, or 2.2 points, like.
So this wasn't up to, and we did get
No,
we
got
get
some
the batch.
votes.
We got some new numbers.
And
Yeah,
you
and
see,
you said
the
that.
Democrats are.
Yes.
There we go.
You said that.
It's
Well,
happening.
Yeah, but you said that, you're like, oh, you're game over, go pack up and go home.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's interesting, but overall, statewide, but that's the thing is that all these things that have been true for so long, for decades in Arizona politics, there's this, the game is being rewritten as we speak, and with Trump, with this populist movement, is really reshuffling the deck in the game, so we're having to kind of re-understand way politics has been played in this new reorganization that we're going through.
Okay, so wait, that was Arizona, right? Did we
Yes.
get the update?
Yeah, we had Maricopa County.
That was Maricopa County.
Yeah, and,
Okay,
and
got it.
as you can
Okay.
see,
Yep.
a lot has gone to Harris, and that's probably the
Yep.
votes here from the central city day
Yes.
of.
Yep, absolutely.
Correct, but then overall statewide.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's fascinating to me because normally we, yeah, again, it's a new day.
Yeah.
in politics.
Okay, so let's go through some of the other ones as well, if we can. U.S. Senate race, we already talked about that a lot. Ruben Gallego right now ahead of Carrie Lake. And then District 1, Dr. Amish Shah, 50.9% to 49.1%. Cook Political had put this as a toss-up district,
Yes.
District 1, and parts of North Phoenix, but a lot of Scottsdale, PV, and then parts of Fountain Hills. District 2, Eli Crane, the incumbent there, beating Jonathan Nez right now. District 3, Yasemin Ansari already declared the winner, 73% to Jeff Zink's 25%. District 4, so that will be, I believe, is it Andy Biggs? I think it is. Let me see. Oh, no,
he's
Greg
5.
Stanton. I'm sorry. Greg Stanton, 56%. And we already heard from him tonight, and he's feeling pretty good about where he is. Andy Biggs right now also feeling great. District 5, 57% of the vote. District 6, let's go to that real quick and see how that is shaping up.
That's a
And
multi-county district.
It is, if we got any update there. So again, this is another potential toss-up. Cook Political labeled this as a toss-up. Juan Ciscomani is the incumbent Republican, down right now, 53% to 45% of the vote.
And in Cochise County, because that's a big deal on the Republican side of this, it only shows that half the precincts are in Cochise County.
Oh, okay. And that would help.
That would help
Ciscomani,
Ciscomani,
big time.
just as long as it's not Bisbee.
Yeah. Yeah, not good. Because it's interesting with those races, but the one that's surprising, is surprising not with these coalition shifts between the two teams in Schweikert's district and it's the of the 9 congressional districts we have, it's the most affluent district out there. So you have a lot of highly educated, higher income folks there. Plus you have those Northeast Phoenix suburbs that are in there, and the Democrats have really been hammering that abortion message pretty hard in that district, and so I think that was one that back in 2020, Biden actually carried that district by about a point or so, and that Schweikert won by less than half a point.
Yeah.
And that's why of the 20 congressional districts that are ultimately going to decide the control for U.S. Senate, is interesting. Arizona had 2 of them, which is Ciscomani and Schweikert's district. Yeah. And it's interesting, like the way these are going. again, it's probably more likely not that, you know, those Democrats are going to have that House majority.
And this is a, if I may jump in here, back to
Shaw.
to Shaw and Schweikert. That is so close and probably remains so close because it has been. That's been the trend here. That's going to fall because the legislature also changed. We've been talking about legislative changes here in the last few hours. The legislature also changed the threshold for automatic recount. It went from 1/10% to 0.5%,
which is a big deal.
Which is a big deal. And when you get a race that looks like that, you know, that's probably going to get recounted. And if the U.S. House of Representatives is close, because it could be as the evening goes on, this could be a pivotal race along with CD6. But the way the new law works is the recount doesn't happen until after the official canvass.
Right.
So that is right before Thanksgiving.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
And so they can't even start recounting until all 15 counties have canvassed and the state has certified to canvass. Then it has to be a judicial order, and then they have to. In that case, it would just be a Maricopa County count.
Right.
But here in District 6, which is up on the screen, that's in multiple counties. That's in Pinal, that's in Pima, and that's in Cochise. So that would be 3 counties that would have to recount this race. But this would be in early December.
Yes.
It's
going to be
in December now.
It's going to be a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dr. Shaw, like he's a former state lawmaker. And I will tell you that just driving around, all the political signs everywhere on every single street corner. So my son's in kindergarten. He has no idea what's going on at all with the political. I mean, has no idea.
Must be nice.
The only sign that has stood out to him is Dr. Shaw's. And you know what he said? Oh, there's a doctor. That's the only reason that this sign has stood out to him. Now, does that mean anything? No. But the fact that he's in a white coat and it's Dr. Shaw, and I don't know, it's interesting. I thought it was kind of interesting.
Well, and to add to your yard sign story here, Dr. Shaw, he did this when he was in the legislature, as Mike can tell you. Most of those yard signs that you see, Dr. Shaw personally put those out.
Delivers them, right?
Delivers them.
And does hand, and that's kind of what he's known for.
And when he talks to somebody, he always says, "May I put a sign in your yard?"
Yeah.
And he physically has put
them in.
Hundreds, if not thousands, of those signs himself.
Yeah. Yep. Well, anyway, so that's working. I know he's known for his door knocks and around town. So, and David Schweikert too. I mean, he's far enough away from some of the scandals that he's had, right? Because it's been a couple of cycles now.
Correct.
The financial kind of ethics cycles where that didn't even come up, honestly, in this cycle.
Well, yeah, because I think they found it was ineffective. Because when you tested it with voters, ultimately they just kind of it wasn't salacious enough. It wasn't really, it just wasn't as like kind of like a paperwork issue or like an oversight issue, which just didn't seem as big of a deal. But I think those attacks fell flat.
Yeah.
And for that, you saw what they did. They just tripled down really on abortion and try and tie him to more the extreme wing of the Republican Party.
Right.
I mean, credit to the Democrats. Like, it's funny, campaign-wise, up until about 4 or 5, like until Sinema came along, they couldn't get elected for the life of them, it seemed like, in these competitive races. And now it's like they cracked the code while the GOP has just really gone and reverted back to, like, basically they've switched position with the Democrats. The Democrats used to be very liberal, especially when they had good chances to win. They would, overshoot it. And now it's interesting where Republicans have gone way too far to the right, and they've done a really good job of playing the middle and just being very strategic and disciplined, which, again, I think that's the main reason why. It's not the lack of votes aren't there for Republicans. It's just strategically, it seems like they've lost a step where Democrats have leveled up. And I think that's why we're seeing such a big shift in Arizona politics. Because, prior to the 2018 election, every single statewide office was held by a Republican. And now, again, you wouldn't even recognize the state. Now, if it came in like a time machine, it just wouldn't make sense.
Yeah. Again, very, very different. Okay, I think we'll go through a few more. District 8, I believe, Abe Hamadeh. He is ahead, but we've been talking about the margins, not as probably comfortable as he would like, maybe, or at least his team, maybe, who's advising him. District 8.
Fun fact about that district. Lesko won that district back in 2020 by 18 or 19 points.
Wow. Okay. And she has kind of retired from Congress, wants to spend
She
time
retired.
at home with her grandchildren, but also is running for the board of supervisors.
Correct, but I just think
Replacing
it's
Clint Hickman.
Yeah.
yeah. But again, compared to Lesko's numbers, I mean, again, it's very much an underperformance.
Yeah. Paul Gosar right now ahead 65%, and he's been declared the winner already. District 9. And then let's go through the props. We've already talked about some of these. Or you know what? I'm sorry. Let's go to the county. So county sheriff, and that will be Jerry Sheridan, the Republican there. Second in charge with Joe Arpaio, and then Tyler Camp, longtime Phoenix police officer. That's also very close race. When you're looking at that, though, Tyler is really kind of an unknown person.
And it wasn't talked about much.
It wasn't talked about, except, I know Jerry, they talked about some of the sexual harassment scandal that kind of came up. And then, but Jerry Sheridan, I mean, his scandal too, like just involving what happened with the Arpaio regime and the taxpayer, what the taxpayer bill that has been a problem for Maricopa County because of Joe Arpaio's regime.
But I think in general, you saw that on that race for sheriff, it just, compared to previous sheriff races, they used to be much more talked about. Like during the time of Arpaio and SB 1070 and all the stuff going on, it was incredibly talked about. Like this one, I don't think it was talked about nearly as much. And I don't think it's a lack of interest, because I think the Senate race, the presidential race, et cetera, with all the angst and anxiety there, a lot of people's attention were focused on that, or let's say the abortion measure. And so I think it took a lot of oxygen out of the room, and because of that happening, it's kind of going the way of the generic ballot in Arizona.
Well, and I think too, if you had a candidate like a Mark Lamb, for example, it'd be a little bit more exciting. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Like someone who's
maybe he'll be
a
there
little
in
bit
4
more
years.
charismatic or
move to Maricopa.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, you talk to people about this race, it was like, it was the lesser of the two evils, is a lot of people,
right
on this race, as you were saying. So that this is close, and again, it could go either which way depending upon what's out there.
Right.
Yeah, correct. That's the thing about what's left over in the ballot count of how, because I think there'll be some residuals of some of the Republicans that are still voting on election day. So maybe not as D-heavy as what we've seen traditionally, prior to the 2020 election. So again, that's why it's kind of a new world, and we're gonna have to get used to this new voting behavior.
Okay, county recorder. We already heard from Tim Stringham just briefly. He's, I mean, so
Right?
close, so close over Justin Heap right now. A race that we'll keep on watching. And then, and then the county attorney for Maricopa County. That is Rachel Mitchell, the incumbent there. She's expected probably to win there. And this would be someone that, you guys can speak to this, but that, maybe someone votes for Kamala Harris, but they feel like, hey, the county attorney's office is doing pretty well right now. I'm going to keep with Rachel Mitchell. I see her on the news. Maybe I don't know very much about it, but it seems like she's doing a decent job.
Well, remember she was appointed, so she just ran 2 years ago.
Yep.
And then she had to run again for the full 4-year term. So she was just in front of the voters, and she's back. I anticipate, look to my friend Mr. Noble here, her numbers have been consistently good.
Yeah, consistently good. And I think there's a thing, you have like the generic baseline, but then you just have certain candidates, and I would say hats off to Rachel Mitchell and her, not only her, but especially her campaign team. I would think they have done just, an edge a bit better. And I think it matters the type of group you have with them. And I think they've done a good job navigating the waters, because I think it's especially tough on the Republican side of navigating without trying to get, primaried, and how do you still stay strong for the general election. It's a lot harder to do now than it used to be.
Yeah.
So I just think they've done a good job of staying ahead, but you're seeing noticeable differences, whether it's like Rachel Mitchell or like County Supervisor Thomas Galvin. You can see there's the fundamentals of how you campaign matter.
Oh yeah. Doug brought up a good one, because this is something, if you live in Scottsdale, you know that there is a competitive race for mayor.
Yeah.
And the incumbent,
Dave
Ortega, is losing right now.
Yeah. So
that's a big one.
And Lisa's ran multiple times.
Multiple
too,
times.
Which is interesting.
Yeah. So
Lincoln.
they're here in a lot of the mayoral races were decided back in August, but there are four marquee races going on for mayors of the various cities here in the Valley, and it's here in Phoenix, Kay Gallego. She's winning handily, over her opponent. Over in Mesa, the third largest city in the state, former Mayor Scott Smith is running again. Is trying to get back to be mayor. Is running against Mark Freeman, who's a current city councilman. Scott Smith is behind right now. And then in Scottsdale, as you mentioned, in the third city, Lisa Borowski, who has run numerous times, is ahead of the incumbent, David Ortega. And then in the town of Paradise Valley, Vice Mayor Mark Stanton has a small lead over Councilwoman Anna Thomason. So we've got 4 mayoral races, which we would normally be talking a lot about, but because of all the other stuff that's going on, we're not. But I wanted to bring those up.
No, it's a great, absolutely. I mean, again, it impacts. I always say politics local, right?
Yeah.
All politics is local, and
I think it's fascinating though about the Lisa Borowski, because she's ran multiple times, but kind of kept running, and she kind of fell short. They get like second or third, better, but kept going, and now in the driver's seat to be then mayor, right? And so I think it's interesting with running, but she could be like the Abe Lincoln of Scottsdale.
Well, remember.
I wouldn't go that far.
It's a little different, right? It's 2024 version.
Remember, there's a lot of votes still out there, but it's just interesting on those 4 races that the only clear winner right now is Kay Gallego.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and she's done a brilliant job, I think, of navigating and positioning herself, and I think she's probably one of the top on the bench for the Democrats as they've been really building out their bench for future statewide or larger positions. So it's interesting, but she's been doing a real good job dominating there.
Yeah.
So I just got an email from the county. The next drop from Maricopa County is going to be in 30 minutes.
Oh, 30 minutes, so like 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Set your timers.
Oh boy, so we got to stay on until who knows, huh?
That's
11
my bedtime.
o'clock.
I got 3 kids under 5, so like
3 kids under 5.
I'm usually in bed by 9:30, so
Oh my
it's a special
gosh.
night though.
And what time? You were up early.
Oh, I get up
this
at like
morning.
4:30 because I'm
You get
crazy.
up at 4:30?
Oh yeah, I gym at 5, cold plunge at 6. I'm
Wow,
nuts.
cold plunge.
Yeah,
You're doing the
no,
cold
trust me,
plunge.
I totally recommend it. Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah, no, I know. It's not comfortable in, but the after, we can talk about after.
There we go.
Do you cold plunge every day?
No, I don't do it every day. We just do 8 to 10 minutes total, but 2-minute intervals. Anyways, if you'd like, I've done all the homework, done all the research. I got you covered.
Wait, you know research, man. So I don't know. We'll
I got you covered.
You do. Yeah, so we're just scrolling through all these results. We want to thank you, of course, for watching Fox 10 Phoenix on our YouTube channel. We really appreciate it. All throughout the evening, we've been commercial free, not only here, but also on 45 and cable channel 9. And Doug Cole here and Mike Noble with Noble Predictive Insights. Stan Barnes is also off somewhere as well. Mark Martinez, I believe, is up live for us, who can talk a little bit more, Mark, about the Senate balance of power. Is that right?
That's right, Ellen. But first, I think someone needs to trademark that term, the Abe Lincoln of Scottsdale. That was quite something. Best thing I've heard all night, to be honest. Mike's always got the great one-liners. But we do have some big news here nationally from our Fox 10 Election Center. Take a look at this. The balance of power in the United States Senate has officially shifted. Fox has called this. We can now say that Republicans have 51 seats to Democrats 49. There were 34 seats up for election tonight, 23 Democrats, 11 Republicans, and 2 Republicans have switched the balance of power now, and those Republicans are Bernie Moreno in Ohio, who beat the incumbent there, Sherrod Brown, who was seeking a 4th term in office, beat him tonight, and that was quite an upset there. Moreno Trump-backed, and there was about $477 million spent on this race in that state. So that tells you this was a really important race for both parties, and that paid off for Bernie Moreno tonight. The other Republican pickup tonight was in West Virginia. That goes to former Governor Jim Justice, who took the seat that was vacated by independent Joe Manchin, who, again, was in West Virginia. And there was no surprise that seat was going to go to a Republican after Joe Manchin decided to leave. So we do have some other seats that are still up tonight on the Democrat side that we're still waiting to get results from. Those are in here in Arizona. Of course, that would be the independent seat that we see down here for Kirsten Sinema. That has not yet been called. We have Maine, Michigan, Montana, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. But yeah, the big story tonight is that Republicans will take control of the Senate for the next term.
Yeah, and Mark, that's the thing that we're talking about already is that if Trump were to win, that would be a huge deal for him, because then we were talking about this U.S. Supreme Court, and then then the U.S. Senate would certainly not stop his nominees potentially if Alito and Clarence Thomas decide that they want to retire. So that would be a huge plus for him if he's able to pull this thing off. We are told that Trump is heading right now to the watch party in West Palm, and if that does happen, we'll of course bring that to you live. But we are expecting another data drop around 11 o'clock tonight. So we're hoping that we can bring that to you live as well. Anything else, Mark, that you feel like we should be knowing about right now?
We could show you the balance of power right now if you'd like to see in the House. So we showed you what the Senate looks like. Here's what it looks like in the House. Again, all 435 seats were up for election tonight. And this is how it's breaking down right now. 179 Republicans, 150 Democrats. Not, we're still waiting for a lot of this area here, a lot of these states to get filled in. So we're waiting for returns from there. There's possibility that the Democrats will take control of the House. So you'd have Republicans in control of the Senate and Democrats in control of the House. You mentioned about if Donald Trump wins tonight, his agenda would certainly be made a lot easier by having the Senate in control, of GOP in control of the Senate. If you have the Democrats in control of the House, could be a stumbling block there, could put in some roadblocks there. So we're really waiting to see how this all plays out tonight. We're also keeping an eye on the battleground states reporting in. Very, very slow to report in. The only one we've had is North Carolina that went for Trump. So we're waiting for the other 6 to let us know what's going to happen there.
Yeah, I know. We're just kind of waiting, and that's going to be the wait game. It could go on for days, but that is the issue if you're a battleground state.
Yes. Yeah.
Mark, thanks so much. We will check in with you a little bit later on tonight.
Of course.
But again, we do expect another data drop to happen around 11 o'clock our time. When that does happen, we will bring that to you live. I believe we're going to try to maybe go past that, maybe towards 11:30. We'll kind of keep you updated. You're looking live right now at the watch party in West Palm, near West Palm Beach, kind of near Mar-a-Lago. So you can see a lot of the MAGA hats, and we are told that Donald Trump is heading that way to address the crowd. They're feeling pretty good, frankly, because North Carolina has already been called for Donald Trump. And some of the trends that we have started to see in some of these battlegrounds, it's favoring him, frankly. And we just have to kind of wait and see what's going to happen. But when we were going to a live shot at Howard University, that is Kamala Harris's alma mater, you can see the crowd looks a little bit different, a little subdued. Some people have left. Some people still there, maybe hoping that she would still come out potentially. We don't know what will happen. We do know that her campaign manager said, though, that tomorrow is basically a new day and that they're going to be kind of checking back with everybody tomorrow. I'm assuming she would come out and address the crowd just because the microphone's up, but we don't know. So. Okay, so I just heard that no, she's not going to address the crowd. So because she's not going to address the crowd, then this is going to be kind of it's not Hillary Clinton yet because no one's been declared a winner. And I don't think anyone's going to be declared a winner tonight, especially if these battlegrounds are so slow to come in, including Arizona. Stan, your thoughts on kind of what we are seeing nationally?
Yeah, my impression immediately is it's bad form to not come out and talk to your people.
Yeah.
If you're Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
She didn't have to come out and say, I've won or I've lost.
Right.
She needs to just come out and say, we are in this, and thank you, and
we're watching, right? We're watching everything, and hold
the fact
on.
that she's not, I think, is really a personal embarrassment for her. Trump will probably declare himself the winner.
Yeah.
and I guess the crowd will go wild, and that numbers may bear that out. But in the meantime, he's the opposite of Kamala Harris in this moment. I mean,
it wouldn't hurt her to come out and see. That's the thing. Now people have already left, so even when her campaign manager said, "Hey, we'll check in with you guys tomorrow," that might have been the moment where she did come out and say, "We will check in with you tomorrow. Yeah. We're still in this.
Right.
Every vote counts.
Right.
We are counting the votes."
Right.
Do not lose the enthusiasm, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for coming out. Because look at this. I mean, the state, it is a beautiful backdrop.
Yes.
At Howard. Look at that.
It's gorgeous.
I mean, look at that. That
And
is just
what time is it on the
beautiful.
East Coast? Is it
Oh gosh, 10,
1 in the
11,
morning?
12, almost 1 in the morning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So
So, I mean, it's
12:40
late.
basically.
But I still, like I said, bad form. She should be out there, regrettably for her.
Okay.
The U.S. Senate is apparently baked for Republicans, and that was widely expected to be. And the House is still a jump ball, and including in Arizona, we have 2 of our congressional seats that are held by Republicans that may go the other way.
Yeah.
And that's David Schweigert's seat and Juan Ciscomani's
Money.
seat. And we'll have to see how that plays out. But if Arizona, with our 2 out of 9, are going to contribute to the flip,
Yeah.
I mean, that says something, really.
Yeah, it does. I know we were talking about, if the legislature does flip here, the school voucher program could be on the chopping block. I mean, you have Governor Katie Hobbs. Okay. So NBC News is reporting that Georgia is going for Trump. So that would be Georgia and North Carolina.
2 of 7.
2 of 7 battlegrounds. So the path is narrowing for her. She needs the blue wall.
Yeah,
right?
she does. I mean, all over social media and the like, it's all Trump go and Harris shrinking. I mean, we can't really say that here because we're working with real numbers.
Right.
But there's a sense from everyone at the local level around these states that Trump has got it.
Yeah.
So we're going to see.
And that's what campaigns are. It is
right.
about feeling too. I mean, it is about the moment and the pulse, right, of what's going on right now. And
that's the thing is that, so we do all this polling, right? We have a significant amount of polling, not just us, everyone else data. And then you have exit polls, etc.
Yeah.
And then we see actually the results come in. And that's the thing is that every time we get batches or these updates, we learn a little bit more about which way these voters are moving. Like, hey, is this a geographical nuance, or is this more of a demographic nuance of let's say a certain coalition of voters of how they're shifting and moving. So as these votes come in, we just learn a little bit more. And so, but yeah, 2 of 7 down.
Yeah, it might be, and back to Arizona, it might be very interesting if apparently Donald Trump is going to win Arizona, and if that's the case, and Kerry Lake loses, and Juan Ciscomani loses, and David Schweiker loses, and the state Senate flips to Democrat.
Yeah.
What an interesting phenomenon.
yes,
That at the top of the ticket, the Republican wins, and down ballot,
you couldn't carry anybody
you
else.
couldn't carry anyone else at all.
Yeah.
I mean, the 3 Republicans running for the Corporation Commission, a very important office, apparently are winning. But as was said earlier, people don't know what they're doing when they get to that place on the ballot.
Right.
And they go by party or by name ID. And if that's the case, Republicans are going to win in Arizona.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening there. But so they're kind of an outlier because no one can describe what the office is, and there's no campaign money around that office. So take them out and put everyone else in these high money congressional seats, high money legislative seats now. I mean, now we have legislative seats for over $1 million.
Right.
Which is wild.
And which is really wild. And
For again, a job that only pays.
yeah, it's not about the money.
The teachers make more.
Yeah, teachers make more. It tells you just how bad it is.
Yeah.
But the conventional wisdom around the Capitol was the Republicans were going to hold the Senate, maybe even pick up a seat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same in the House, but apparently as of now, almost 11 o'clock the night of, it's not looking that way.
Yeah.
But everything's going to trend Republican from here on out, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you'll see as they counted some of the votes.
You mean in Arizona?
That's what I meant. In Arizona,
Okay.
as votes get counted through tomorrow,
Yes.
those Republicans that are right on the edge of winning their seat have that momentum of same-day voters leaning Republican, is what I think. But here's the man that ought to know.
Yeah.
So tell us the answer.
Well, no, we saw that Republicans were leaning a bit more on the early voting time, or early voting side. Like we saw that they front loaded more than they have previously.
Yes.
So Democrats kind of reverting a little bit back to their traditional norm.
Yeah.
So we still think Democrats will have the edge on the day of voting.
You do? You think Democrats have the edge?
I believe they do.
Interesting.
So the breaking, especially the way the independents are breaking. But it's interesting that you pointed out, Stan, is that with Arizona, it could see a result where, Trump carrying, but we kind of known that like Trump is the top of the ticket. Like he performs the best of any Republican out there. It's just the thing is, you can't really emulate. How can you, Trump is Trump. Like he is unique. He is a one of a kind. And them trying to keep that level. And now how can you create some infrastructure around that, which the old GOP machinery has basically been starting to be dismantled as this new a new wing of the party basically is taking control. So question is, can he build out from there the infrastructure, whether taking it to Congress to, again, how can they help down ticket?
Yeah. So I just got kind of a sheet about all the battleground states. So Georgia, Fox and CNN and NBC are all calling Georgia for Trump. So we have North Carolina and Georgia for Trump, 2 out of 7. We already said that. So the other ones, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Georgia, and Arizona, Trump is leading in every single one right now. Every single one. Now, we said that could change, right? It could change with some of these. Now about, Pennsylvania, though, has about 86% of the vote in, and he's still ahead. Then it comes down to, right, like the deep cities, the deep urban, who's showing up, who's voting, and the trends based on 2020.
Yeah, it just shows that
Is she underperforming 2020? Is she underperforming Biden?
Well, that's what we're seeing, at least so far.
Right, she is when it comes to some of these battlegrounds.
Well, I think there's a couple signs, right? One is it's a shock to me that she's not doing, you got a whole crowd of people that came to hear you talk and not going to go out and address them. But then also, again, which is what we're seeing, turnout-wise, just again, the rurals have been increased, but that in the urban, suburban areas, she's either at Biden's number or slightly underperforming. And she needs to balance out with that increase from 2020 that Trump has had to push out those voters. But if you're just meeting at the levels, that was an incredibly close election. It was about 40,000 votes total that decided the winner and loser in that 2020 election. So, I mean, very close. And so it's a game of inches, but you also gotta, you gotta turn up.
Right. And again, it's all about turnout, right? I asked you earlier, what do you think Biden is thinking right now? I mean, dropping out 100 some days ago.
Could have beat him.
You think?
I think in his head. No, not would he have in his head.
I think in his head.
Yeah, no, in his head. Yeah, yeah.
I
Absolutely.
think in his head.
Right.
I think most people would think that you never know. You would have no idea unless if he was actually the candidate.
Right.
But I think that
no, I don't think he would have won though.
Following that debate performance, I don't know how anyone would think he would function at all.
And the crowd is leaving Howard University.
Yep. So everybody's leaving.
Wow.
This is reminiscent of 2016, guys. It kind of is to me.
You're right.
Isn't it?
It is.
Because you had the party planned in New York, you had the glass ceiling, and Hillary didn't come out, and the crowd was there. They were gathered. They were excited. They were pumped up because everyone expected her to win. Now, again, different expectation tonight. Everyone had always expected that it would be that it would be close. But I think with Howard, there was an expectation that people wouldn't be leaving. You're looking right now at West Palm. We do expect Donald Trump to come out at some point because he was going from Mar-a-Lago. See, they're dancing. It's a completely different situation right there.
Yeah, we don't have the final tangible numbers yet, but I think the whole country senses that this is a Trump victory tonight.
Yeah.
And that Kamala is going to come in a fighting second. I mean, that's just these contrasting
completely
pictures you're
different,
showing.
night and day.
Or just that.
Night and day. Huge
Look at
party.
that. I mean,
people going home.
Everybody walking out, mopey,
Yeah.
versus that.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's politics, right?
That is
totally politics.
Right.
On a political
2024
night.
politics, yeah.
In 2024 politics, people wearing a red hat, dancing around, and a few people dancing. A few people. But and again, these other battlegrounds have not been called, and Arizona we're going to be counting for a long time. The push to get people to turn out for the Democratic ticket, you had Beyonce, you had Lady Gaga, you talk about Taylor Swift, and right now, like underperforming Biden in 2020, right?
I think there's some certain truths to politics, and people that are, and what is, voting? It's part of civic engagement, right? I mean, you have a part of the population that is civically engaged, but you have a certain portion of the population that frankly is not engaged, no matter how much you talk about it, etc. And especially folks that haven't had a habit of doing it, to get in the go like, oh, I'm going to go do this. And that was one factor we were curious about in this election, when you have these people like a Elon Musk on one end or a Taylor Swift on the other, Beyonce, etc. Does that impact? Like, we didn't have people haven't had these type of megaphones or followings that have really weighed into these contests and have that have an impact. And it's interesting is that people that vote typically vote, but you have these new ones coming in and out. But I think it's more of just people getting more involved in their civic engagement in general, and just why the importance of it matters, because if not, only half of the people are deciding for the other half.
Right.
The other thing is we really are living in a moment of history that has not been around here for 100 years or so. It's a real realignment. And as I said earlier, Trump makes his own weather, and that weather making is very special to him, very custom to him. And this scene in Arizona where Democrats are winning, but they're not winning the presidency is such an interesting phenomenon to me.
Yeah.
If it holds,
Right.
It's going to go down as one of the rarest things in our world.
Right.
That the top of the ticket did so well, and the others did not.
Right.
Very interesting.
Well, I know you were talking like with Carrie Lake. You're like, more like Reagan, less like Trump. And Trump can only be Trump. Trump is the only person who can be Trump.
Yeah, I think he's proving that. I mean, Carrie has tried to duplicate it, but she's not a New York billionaire with that kind of following, and it doesn't wear as well on her as it does the New York billionaire. When Carrie stepped out after she won the gubernatorial primary and went to CPAC in Florida and introduced Trump, and that was the big coming out as the Republican nominee for governor, and she extemporaneously said, we put a stake in the heart of the Trump machine.
Yeah.
That was the moment.
McCain machine.
In the McCain machine, thank you. I put a stake in the heart of the McCain machine. It's late, people. And I mean, that was the crystallized moment when she limited herself.
Yeah.
And she's proving it again. I mean, when does someone come out of the private sector and be the gubernatorial nominee and the U.S. Senate nominee with all that name ID and all that charisma and all that, and that ability to speak and magnetize a crowd and come up second twice? It just must be really maddening for her.
Right. And the other thing too is like when you talk about politics, everything is recorded, everything's on tape now. So what you say can and will be used against you moving forward. Whether you're talking about abortion, you have some extreme position on abortion, that will be used forever if she continues to run or whatever. But I mean, that's the thing. It's like that. But that's for anybody. I mean, any candidate, you say something, you mess up, you do something, that will be out there potentially forever if someone has the money to put it out there to the world.
I think the thing is that candidates now is that the worst thing that, yeah, you're right, there is a lot of content out there, but the most damaging attack anyone can have is a candidate's own word, let alone on video, right?
Yes.
When you have that, they
Yes.
capture that and they'll use that, and it's just and it's tough to get around, because at the end of the day, it's positions, but it's become more of a likability contest than anything else.
Yeah.
And they like you, they vote for you.
I don't think we talk about that enough. The likability factor is really a very important thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it separates winners from losers, honestly. You can be wrong on the issues and be likable and still win.
Yeah.
And Carrie she squandered her likability because she had it.
She did.
And squandered it with her behavior.
Yeah.
And it feels like, I think for a lot of people, the Carrie Lake campaign has been a 4-year campaign, because it's been for governor and then this, and almost never stopped.
Right.
In fact, litigating the last one, even as we're in this one.
Well, and that'll be the next step. I mean, post-election, what happens with that?
She could become governor if she wins out on her lawsuit.
Well, no, but yeah.
Or continue running. And
I mean, Stephen Richer, he could cash in, right?
Yeah, depending. I mean, that's to the courts.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Winning. I mean, I think they're currently in the phase of
settling the money. Right?
Correct. Yeah, there's that portion, and then but it's interesting is that you know, where does she go from here next? And you know, again, whether it's an appointment or a position, or maybe it's like a Newsmax or something like that, or potentially running for governor.
I guess
Don't
it's
you think
possible.
Karen Taylor Robson's going to run for governor?
Yes, I do think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean,
but she's not alone.
He's the expert. He
right?
can
There's
say
a lot
that.
of
He is the expert.
there's a number of people who like to. She certainly is among them. But in terms of this election right now, we're not giving enough credence to this idea that our state legislature may be a Democratic legislature, and how rare that would be.
Yes.
If, half a century or longer.
Yes.
And that, I mean, I don't know we don't know what the numbers are going to be, but if my smart man to my left is right, then Democrats are going to hold their own on day of voting.
Yes.
And if that is the case,
then it would. Yeah.
Then we're going to have a 16-14 Senate.
Yeah.
Democratic.
Right.
For the Democrats held the Senate in 1991-92 all by themselves. But if the House flips to Democratic, we won't have that combination all the way back to 1965.
Well, and think about the rules that some of the Republicans made the Democrats kind of go through, right? When the Republicans were in control.
Oh yeah, they ran the table.
I mean, you know, just some of the basic like decorum stuff that went on at the legislature, the Capitol, and some of those Democrats, and they're going to remember that stuff, especially if they're in power.
You can see a seismic policy shift because we have an incumbent Democrat governor, and let's say both land up swinging over. You could see a lot of things change on a lot of different public policy issues overnight in a state. To Stan's point, this we haven't seen this in 5 decades.
Yeah.
Right, and so. Very much a shift, and so and again, there'll probably be a lot of things that they'll want to go after. Vouchers being one of them, but there could be a lot of things that could happen very quickly because especially there's a lot of party line voting that's happening these days.
Sure enough, and our Democratic friends are going to find out that it's a whole different experience to be in the majority. It's one thing to be in the minority and throw rocks and say it ought to be this way, but when you're in the majority and you're having to make the decision, it's going to be very interesting to watch. And to the point you're making, they, the leadership of the House and Senate Democrats have felt very much put upon by the House and Senate Republicans.
Right.
A lot about the rules of the building, of the rules of the chamber.
Yeah.
When bills are heard, when they're not, who gets to be heard, all that.
Who can
so
speak,
will they be magnanimous? Will they be magnanimous, or will payback be a bitch, as they say? We'll see. I'm betting on the latter.
I mean, do you remember when they had people speaking in tongues? I mean, that was like, okay. I mean, people were speaking.
No, that's not exactly fair. Because
people were speaking in tongues at the state capitol, and that was bizarre.
It was on the floor of the Senate.
And that went national, and people are going, what in the HELL is going on in Arizona politics? And people are talking in tongues on the Senate floor. Okay, so people in the Senate who are Democrats, and if they flip it, they're going to remember stuff like that.
They probably won't speak in tongues.
I don't think they will speak in tongues, but they're going to remember some of that.
They're going to get their pound of flesh.
Yeah, and they're human beings, and they are an organized party like Republicans are, and they will have their own magnified problems by being in the majority.
Yeah.
Magnified.
Yes.
Holding the majority together, acting as one.
Yeah.
There will be members that want to split out. I bet even the ESA thing will not be an automatic.
Right.
You'd think it would just be all Democrats go, yeah, but not necessarily.
Right.
Because once you actually have the responsibility for making the decision one way or the other, then it is a new magnitude. And there are constituencies that feed the Democratic Party that very much like the ESA.
A lot of money.
A lot of money.
A lot of money.
Exactly. And once you're in it, it's hard to let go of it.
Yeah.
So it won't be easy being the majority. Plus, we're having a contraction of state revenues and things like that. And it takes 2/3 of a majority to raise taxes. So they can't even do that on their own.
Yep.
And they'll have all the responsibility. They'll be in the majority. Maybe. We're just hypothesizing. But if they are, then all of a sudden there's no one to hide behind.
Yeah.
You can't point at the Republicans for screwing things up. You are the boss.
Yeah.
And the governor is yours too.
That's true. We are starting to run out of time, so I think we're straight up at 11 o'clock. Is that right, Trenton? That we're going to be going off the air at 11 o'clock.
Sounds like terrible to be alive.
Doug, why don't you come on back? It's okay. You can cross.
Come on in,
it's
Doug.
Fine. Just come on over. Slide on in. Just make yourself comfortable.
Here, come on.
Because we are going to wrap up at 11 o'clock, and I did want to put up the results real quick before we go off the air. The Fox 10 Phoenix YouTube channel, 45, cable channel 9. We want to thank you guys so much again for joining us. Real quick, race for the White House, U.S. Senate race. This is just the first batch of numbers that have come in. Arizona is going to still keep on counting the next couple of days. We do expect another batch or so around 11 o'clock. We say around 11 o'clock. It could come a little bit after. But we'll continue to follow this. Our morning show is also going to keep on top of this too, because this is going to, and we're also going to get updates as well, guys, from the Tabulation Center, from the Maricopa County reporter, Stephen Richard, tomorrow morning as well. So just keep it here. Let's go real quick through the congressional districts, just rapid fire, because we have like no time left. If we can do that. District 1, very close. District 2, not as close. District 3 already been declared. District 4, Greg Stanton looks like he's gonna win that one. The incumbent. District 5,
Same thing.
and District 5. Can we get that real quick? We want to get these before we have to get out of here. We got 1 minute left. I guess it's taken a while to load it. District 5, Andy Biggs. So he is the incumbent. District 6.
Are we allowed to call some of these races?
That's going to be a toss-up. I wish you could call. That's definitely call. District 8. So Abe Hamadeh, not as comfortable of a lead as he probably would like, but Abe Hamadeh is going to be in the lead there. And then District 9, that is going to be Paul Gosar, and he has already won that, I believe. We have 30 seconds left. I can't thank you guys enough for being here. It's been great. I love hearing y'all's perspective. It's been fascinating. Right now, Trump is up in North Carolina and in Georgia, those battlegrounds, but more battlegrounds to count. Stan Barnes, Doug Cole, Mike Noble. Thanks again. I wish we could do this some more, but you know, it only happens every 4 years. Maybe we'll do it again in 2.
Mercifully.
Okay.
Mercifully.
Thanks, guys, and thank you so much for watching.